4 points behind, or exactly 4 points behind Furia, who we were talking about a little bit earlier. So you can see everybody that's in and around that area at the moment. They're tied with 2 points ahead of LG, who are tied with TSM. So we really are going to see some shifts today in that sort of qualification area, the automatic qualification area heading into regional finals for, of course, the split 2 playoffs. But as we take a look across, you can see Bleed Esports, who we saw a little bit about, and Dropped was speaking about their journey. They're going to be over at the wall to start today.
Yeah, they're going to be over at the wall. Fluffy Aimers are going to be over towards Cliffside, which is not particularly going to be fun. But they did ask Monsoon in the chat whether they could have Trident instead. And Monsoon replied with, hey, we'll see how the first 2 games go, and then maybe you could have it for match number 3. But not going to happen, I'm sure. I do think that this is going to be an interesting one. I like that you mentioned Barometer South as well. We've seen Liquid play for Barometer South quite often. This split is a very comfortable POI for them. They have found victories from that POI, even when it's drifted a little bit further north as well. So definitely, our teams to watch are going to be Furia, Team Liquid, LG, TSM. They're our big 4 today. But then, of course, it is going to shift very heavily to the bottom of the leaderboard to see who can get into those top 20 positions. The likes of Moist, the likes of Disguised. Can they have the day of all days to try and push themselves in? And then you've got the squads like Oxygen, who have just got to watch on and hope and pray that they don't get overtaken here today.
Well, here we go then, everybody. The lobby is almost ready to go. And I've got to say, Dan, as well, this is our last opportunity to cast the ALGS before we get to the LAN event itself. So it's an exciting time for us, something we're always very lucky and very privileged to be a part of. And I've got to say, it's one of my favorite match days. The regional finals is always a banger, but now it's time to polish our grapples and get into the final regular season match day.
Yeah, this is the chance where everyone has the opportunity to show up and to kind of throw away any bad mistakes that might have happened in the last 2 weeks, because the majority of teams here all are still within a shot of regional finals. If not, almost every team, bar perhaps one, are in a shot of regional finals here today. So it means you have to step up, show what you're made of. If you've put in any sort of extra practice in scrims and something's been successful for you, or you've struggled in certain areas, now's the time to change it, because otherwise you are going to be out and you're going to be sat at home watching regional finals go underway.
Well, here's your legend selector as well, and it's always interesting to see if there's anything just out of the ordinary, and it doesn't look like there will be. It's pretty consistent across the board from what comps the teams have been playing previously. So we're actually going to start off right in the middle of the map. We're going to start off over at Cascade Falls, and we're going to have a little bit of a look at TSM on their loot paths, because it's been an interesting season, a roller coaster season to say the least, both in-game and out of game. But Dan, they're starting to come good just when it matters.
Yeah, I think that TSM really are a massive threat, and I think that they should be proud of how they have adjusted to losing one of the best players in the world, and that is always going to take a big impact on you as a team, your personalities as well, and how that affects you on a mental state, not just actually in-game. And TSM have bounced back, and I'm very proud of Zap to be able to fill those shoes and now step up and be an incredible IGL for this roster as well. And dropping at Cascade Falls, as I mentioned, it is a mid-pick. It's a pretty average POI, but it's somewhat a central POI. So certainly the loot's not going to be as good as certain areas, but you do have priority to certain zones. And speaking of said zone, they're not the worst position for this zone that's going to be coming up, as it is going to be heading down towards Jurassic.
Yeah, Jurassic is looking like the call, and Empire Gaming going to be pretty happy with that. They're dropping at Jurassic at the moment. TSM playing Watson as well from Cascade, which kind of makes sense considering that the loot pool isn't the strongest, and with having good prior with the central POI, they can get there and they can bunker down pretty easily. Now, Bleed Esports, what a story this has been, right? We talked about how, you know, Zap had the almost unenviable task of fitting into the big shoes of Imperial Hal, and how that is almost like a thankless task because you're going to be always compared to him. But Bleed Esports Shuby, I think, has gone under the radar a little bit. I think he has been a standout for them when it comes to those team fights, when it comes to putting down damage and also clutching up in certain situations. I think he's been a player whose stock is rising consistently as we see him play more and more.
I think that happens to certain players when they get the right opportunity to be on a certain squad and they find that success, the confidence is back within them, and we see them at their very best, playing at peak performance. So we'll have to see whether it can be a similar day for Bleed and whether they can find that pop-off day that Dropped was mentioning in the interview we saw of him a little bit earlier on. I'm noticing there is a Gibraltar in the lobby, so I guess that's the only real difference that we're maybe seeing, as you know, we see a few changes when meta shifts come in, and we'll have to see whether the Gibraltar at the end can be a big difference. You can see the pick rate of all the legends at the top of your screen now. 19 Bangalore's. Maybe that's what we expect now in North America.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I'll tell you what, if you're playing Bangalore Gibby and you stand in your bubbles, you call in both the ults, it might be quite the spectacle, to be honest with you, to watch that come down and just destroy the
like
lobby
the 4th
in
of
front
July.
of you. Yeah, exactly. Well, an upside down 4th of July is how I would see it. But you can see where the zone is at the moment, and you can see it's going to actually be Native who are playing that Gibraltar, and you saw the legend picks at the top of your screen, so you can get an idea of exactly what legends are going to be being played. You can see that I mentioned TSM are playing Watson, a pretty low pick as far as pick rate is concerned, but kind of POI dependent, you would say, to have that Watson. But Furia, I mean, what a game day it was for them last time we saw them, and it was just yesterday that we did see them. And I mentioned how they have the chance to catch up to SSG with a monster day today, with SSG sitting this lobby out and having to watch. They won't be able to catch Falcons quite yet, because let's be honest, Falcons are quite far ahead of everyone at the moment. But to be in second spot going into the regional finals, to know you're one of the teams who can contend with them when it gets to the big moments and the big games, it's a big confidence boost ahead of the Split 2 playoffs.
Yeah, there's a real chance that SSG lose that second place going into regional finals, which of course won't make much of a difference to them, really. Furia and Team Liquid could potentially leapfrog them if they were to find a victory today. Actually, I think Furia could finish as low as 8th and still find themselves in second place going into regional finals. So it's most certainly achievable for them. Now, I said every team bar one can probably make regional finals. The team that I'm maybe a little bit skeptical about is Eternal EC. They find themselves in the last position. They are on 24 points right now. They are 16 points, though, behind 20th position. But, of course, even if they got those 16 points, everyone in the top 20 would also be gaining points. So they would have to win to have any real opportunity of getting to regional finals. But that doesn't mean it's impossible, just a little bit more unlikely with how things have gone for them this season.
As we like to say, it's not impossible, but improbable. So we'll have to see if they can pull off a bit of a miracle today. Is a very, very tall ask for them to do for a team who has struggled to put points on the board consistently this split. Looking at where our zone is going to be going, we still see it's going to be likely a Jurassic pool. Native Gaming have set up themselves inside a pylon at the moment. Maybe this is just a transitional spot for them, or maybe they just have a little sneaky feeling it's going to be pulling back. But where the rest of the lobby finds themselves at the moment, it is heavy on the Jurassic side, and it's going to be pretty difficult to get in once you are arriving a little bit later. We can see that Team Liquid Alienware just found a little death box there, and that's actually going to be Sweet, who's going to be taken down as the first player in the lobby. So LG down to 2.
Always fun seeing the journey of Liquid from Barometer as well. I mentioned it actually on the EMEA broadcast when we saw a victory from a certain side, and I said it compares to Liquid Alienware, how they find success coming from Barometer. They wait, they get the ring console information through the fuse, and then they will find a optimal position after getting that third zone info rather than playing off second zone. So we'll have to see whether it's something similar here today.
Well, pretty slow start to the lobby, apart from if your name is Sweet Dreams, of course, who is probably thinking this is a very quick start to the lobby. Maybe he's going to be able to have a little bit of a say a little bit later on if his two teammates can get into a position to get him back into the game. Trying to see where the rest of LG are at the moment. It looks like they are in the choke, kind of holding out Liquid Alienware at the moment. But Complexity, they're in a little bit of a fight now. They're looking to just pick the pace up a little bit outside of Pylon in this choke, and a good spray coming in from Kimchi is going to at least let his two teammates reset.
Did see Monsoon tweeting out before today as well, saying we have to have the sad reality of there are going to be incredible teams not making LAN once more in North America. And even with the 12 spots available, that is still a reality, which is kind of crazy with how competitive this region is, as the Fluffy Aimers have lost Chase Mod. They're down to 2, and they are going to be chased. It's going to be Eternal, who are going to be maybe just on the flow state here of trying to get extra kills.
It's interesting, isn't it? Eternal just... It sounds silly sometimes. You can kind of overthink your game plan, but when it's so obvious, it's like, oh, we just need to win today. Like, that's all we need to do. We have to take fights. We have to win the day. It kind of takes pressure off in some sort of way, because it's like a distant dream, which allows you to play with a little bit more freedom. One team is not playing with freedom at the moment, by the way, is LG, who are now finding themselves down to just 1 by the looks of things, thanks to Liquid Alienware finding another member to call or to put into their kills column, as they now have 2 to their names. So LG are going to have to try and reset to get out of there. At least Funk managed to do exactly that. I don't know if he has banners or not, but Team Liquid Alienware now are going to be able to move up to this egg, play this choke a little bit later, and kind of have a path in towards Jurassic. Also, they're going to have a juicer in front of them, so they can pick up a little bit more Evo, and they might be able to get out to purple with the damage they did with those kills.
Just to touch on Eternal one more time, they did win a match day back in Split 1 with one different player. That was when Carter was on the roster, so it's not like it's unachievable for them here, and we'll leave that for now. We'll see how Eternal do, but it's certainly still possible, even though they're in dead last today, that they could make regional finals, which is going to make today even more exciting. The fact that really anyone can still be there, which means it's going to be very competitive and also very kind of worrisome for a lot of these teams, because if you slip up, if you make one mistake, there is going to be someone biting at your heels to take that position off you. Even if you find one win and you're suddenly into the top 20, if you drop off a last place, a second to last, then people start to catch up and leapfrog you, and you might throw away that regional final spot. So consistency is going to be key, but also a big win could be everything here.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? It's like, it's not just a test of like your ability and your skill in game here. It's a test of the old gray matter as well. What's happening between the ears and what's happening in your head when it comes to performance game after game. One bad game, you can't, quite simply at this point, cannot in the split allow yourselves to let that hangover into the next game or become a hangover into that next game. It needs to be a full reset of the mentality of the game plan, whatever it needs to be. And one team who's done that pretty well so far this split has been Bleed Esports. We've seen their consistency and their finishes that we saw at the top of the show. Well, at the moment, they've got to work their way in towards this zone. They're going to be able to hit the survey beacon to get the lay of the land and see what spots are free, but this is a really tough rotate for them from wall.
Yeah, I think the sad reality is there's not really any spots that are free, certainly not those in good positions. But what you can do with a survey beacon is look at buildings that maybe are a little bit vulnerable to being sieged and say, all right, well, we do see there is one team residing here. Maybe that's going to be our target, because perhaps that could be a position that we could maybe steal away from them. But you also need the armors to go alongside it. Purples are definitely going to be desirable, and you can sometimes hope that you would be landing on a team with blue. Now, speaking of armors, DSG, they're on 2 purples and a red, and they're going to be making their way all the way around on this west side here to have a late arrival. And you know what? It could work out, because they could very much surprise those teams with a late arrival here.
Yeah, something that DSG have always liked to do is zone wrap, and I think a lot of teams are very aware sometimes of certain zones. It's like on certain zones, excuse me, of like, oh, we've got to be careful because we haven't seen DSG for a while. Like, where are DSG? Are they going to zone wrap us? But when you zone wrap and you have armors to play with, it gives you that, like you say, element of surprise that you can just take a spot off of someone. And the team that might have to watch their backs and be careful of it are Stallions. Let's jump into a listen in and see what the comms are like with Stallions.
111.
I'm
Pat team zipping out of zone. Full team zipping to the building.
Okay. Can we take the building?
We're here.
No, they're on it.
Oh, fuck. Going to max for the dock. I'm sorry, okay.
One's here. They're going towards hot dog. This is DSG.
He's a sentinel. Michael, man. Yep.
No, dude. I almost killed the path. You can res him, I think.
I'm on res. I'm dropping armor.
Okay, I'm on the way then.
Biting armor.
They're peeking the right side of the platform.
Working my way up to the platform.
One's in donut cell. Not donut. Hot dog. We're out here.
Be careful, the path is one at the fucking sentinel.
Yeah.
Now
You want a hot dog?
an upgrade.
We need to kill these guys.
Yeah,
I don't know
he's there.
how the fuck we do this.
We can't. We have to just kind of wait. I think we burn time at and we
is
wrap
there
this
a
one on the
bingo? Is there a bingo on my
fight.
side?
Yes, there is.
I'm walking into you.
I'm looking. Ram, watch that team
This team
behind
might
us.
mirror
Just
us
not
though.
get fucked.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm good. Give us a syringe.
Yeah. Here.
I'm walking up the hill.
What's on hot dog?
Oh, shit.
Is
I'm coming back.
he might be
good?
going up left.
I should be fine. Unless this fucking path.
They're both there still.
Go over there.
2 of them there. One on the right.
I have a zip.
That way late. Any orbitals?
Yes. Here.
Drop me.
I have zip.
You just-
I can give you an
He's red.
ultimate there.
Relocate there.
I have zip so we can tank zone the zip if we need
Either
to.
way.
We need to work it that way. We need to work it this way. And then
Yeah.
play into that little with Bengal. Can we point to the right tree? Is that possible? With the
Yeah.
zip maybe?
Yeah?
You scan it through there?
Yeah.
I don't think they're here
Get as
yet.
far as we
I
can.
don't-
Get as far as we can.
They're close to it, but they're not at the tree. They're on the door, I think.
Okay.
Not at the door anymore.
Walking
No,
up.
they're at the door. At the door now. At the door.
Walking up. I'm walking up. I'm left late.
Yep.
It's a rat. It's a rat. Ignore him. Ignore him. After bat, this guy's just griefing my fucking game. I'm batting. I'm batting. Can we do
Yes.
I'm getting swung.
Crack me.
I just whiffed so badly. It's at 120. It's right here. He's cracked. That's not. That's our third.
Lift through zone. Lift through zone.
As we jump back into the game, unfortunately, with the end of Stallions, and we mentioned the DSG wrap down, and that was what caused them all of those problems.
The DSG wrap, it sounds tasty, but sometimes it's a little bit spicy as enemy. The last remaining player here, 2 have gone down, and sadly, it could be the demise of DSG. It will be. So for all that standoff between Stallions and DSG, neither of them are able to survive. Liquid Alienware are going to be able to clean up, but now Cloud9 are going to be on their heels, looking to try and nip them here.
A well-placed frag grenade could turn this fight, as we see the Seer ult going down as well. Sorcerer's going to take the height, and now they just need to peek together. Make sure not to give any opportunity for 2 of the players from Liquid Alienware to solo you out. That's great shots. Coming in, almost gets that knock, but can't quite convert. But Sorcerer providing a huge amount of damage for them, and the stick comes in from the Arcstar as well. Surely that's going to be the opportunity for them to push.
Yeah, Stay Naughty's taking a lot of damage, but had dealt enough damage to allow Cloud9 to push in. It's going to be a 2 versus 2, though, I believe. Maybe a 2 versus 1 right now. It is a 2v1, and it is cleaned up. So we're going to see 3 teams go down. Liquid Empire, and we're going to see Vanity all fall as C9 come out on top. But now that does reduce us ever so slightly here, with a few teams falling, but Fury is still alive. 12 squads remain.
Fury on the north side of this zone and the northeast side of this zone, trying to hold off a push that's coming in from Temper at the moment, trying to force their way through towards this zone. Great spray coming in from Madness as well to get that knock onto Spades, and now it's looking like a very clear path for Furia. They managed to get 2. They've barely taken any damage whatsoever as well, and that's because Flat were wrapping behind Tempo, which makes this a little bit easier for Furia to walk forward. However, in the meantime, Native Gaming have gone. Tempo have been fully eliminated now, and with Furia still healthy, Madness is going to have to be careful because Flat are holding this position.
Yeah, whoever wins this fight on the northern side will have an opportunity to hold one of the better positions on the north, but you've got to worry about what's going to be happening on the west. TSM, Oblivion are going to be there, but it's Bleed Esports who has center zone right now, and in one of the priority positions to potentially win this game if they can play it out in a correct manner. But Furious still have a very good opportunity to try and get some KP here and control a good spot on the north.
10 squads remaining, by the way, as round 4 is about to close. So there should be playable space for pretty much everybody, but Complexity are on one side of the fence line to Jurassic. They're trying to hold out Not Moist at the moment. C9 are close to them as well, as Furia use that zip to get away from all of the carnage that's going down and find a tree spot to call their own.
Yeah, they can not only look at what's happening on the north, but they can also join in with the commotion that's happening on the south as well. They will now be able to hold out potentially the teams that are arriving through those Jurassic doors. The likes of Not Moist, the likes of Complexity, both will have to push through, and Furia can maybe pick up some KP from it. I love this reposition. I love the area they've taken, but it is Not Moist who are now having to get a little bit of aggressive here. The catwall went down to give them the cover, but now without it, they are exposed. They might have to take the fight.
Yeah, just have to be careful. Complexity were eliminated. They win that first fight, which is the important one. Now they just have to buy enough time to reset and then move through. But Cloud9 are having a little peek at them now. Also, you got to be wary of Furia. Like you mentioned, you're in a great position to third party this, so everybody is tiptoeing around each other. Nobody wants to be the first to get knocked, and it's going to be Chaotic, who is that player, thanks to Guild.
Yeah, Not Moist now will be able to push up on, really get aggressive, and they will eliminate, and they'll get a reset because Furia are not going to go past that gate, right? Furia are not going to commit that heavily to a fight. It would be far too risky. So Not Moist, they can relax, they can reset, and they can now consider how they want to approach this final circle. They get that breather. Other teams in the area, you got TSM now pushing up onto Flat, and it looks like they want to take this fight.
They've got the armor advantage here as well. They've got a nice head glitch to play with. They managed to take the gen out, I'm pretty sure, which means nades now become a factor in this fight. A spray coming in from Verholz, but both shields have been broken for Reps and Zap, and Zap is down to around 5 HP as Reps tries to hold the line for them and stop that swing so he can pop a bat. But now the Rap is coming in as well as this Oblivion, who are looking to move into onto TSM's position.
Yeah, Oblivion joining in as a duo, but it is going to be Blink, the last remaining player, but that could be enough to detriment TSM here, where they might struggle. Elsewhere, you can see Furia decided to get involved. They heard it all. They zipped back over, and now they will be the ones who eliminate Flat, and they might be able to take out TSM as well.
Well, TSM have managed to reset here. TSM have managed to get healthy, so this isn't as easy as you would think. However, with the damage coming across map, TSM won't be able to put up much of a fight, and Furia will continue what has been a phenomenal run here in game number 1 from the phenomenal run that they had yesterday on their last game day.
Yeah, certainly momentum on their side from yesterday. They are feeling confident. You can see the way they are moving around the map and manipulating the map in their favor to get these kills, as NGNL will go down. 5 squads now remain, but it's still Bleed center zone here with a building to work with cover to work with, whereas every other team kind of is out in the open at the moment, using any rock they can to try and stay alive.
Well, Keon found a cheeky little spot there. He got stunned for a second, but didn't take too much damage by the looks of things from that bang. And now you're seeing Keon. He's going to overextend a little bit. He's going to find a little bit of space, and he's going to find a knock as well. Walsey is also starting to get a little bit active inside of this building, as Bleed Esports, who have been center zone, will be eliminated as well. And Not Moist are fighting like animals. Every 3v3 we see them in, they're just wiping them.
Not Moist full sent it onto Bleed, and they said, actually, that building looks pretty nice. And now Furia get involved with the Oblivion fight. But now it's a 3 versus 3, Not Moist versus Furia. We do have the building available for Not Moist, but they are currently spreading themselves to try and get angles, and they almost take down Madness because of it.
Well, Keon takes a little bit of damage as well, and you can see that Guild and Waltzy trying to do what they can just to hold the line at the moment. Timmy's the player who's playing a little bit of an off angle here, as we see Furia retreat to Keon, who is going to be playing that rock. Now, when you're talking about zone, when you're talking about positioning, Not Moist certainly have that at the moment with the building that they find themselves in and with the spray that comes in as well. However, look at Keon with that havoc from distance, taking down Waltzy, and now it's up to Not Moist to turn this fight around, and they managed to make it a 2v2.
Yeah, it certainly turned around. 2v2 now. Timmy and Gil should be able to reset episode slightly, but now you can see the push coming through.
Timmy left on his own. It's a 1v1. Timmy trying to do what he can. He's got armor swaps to play with as well. Tries to switch his attention to this player and find the knockdowns to play behind as well. Medkit going to be popped in the meantime. Lot of pressure coming in. He's trying to stick this medkit, and if he can, surely he's in a position to clutch this up. And oh, Timmy! Timmy will win the 1v1. He will clutch. And Not Moist will be your champions in game 1.
And Not Moist, how important could that win be right off the rip? 21st position coming into this game in the overall standings, going up against Furia, who are in 3rd. So not only do they get a victory to give themselves the chance to get into regional finals and to get closer to maybe getting towards playoffs, but also to be able to take down a team that has been all about momentum, has dominated yesterday. That is going to be the perfect way for Not Moist.
An amazing 1v1 win from Timmy. And I got to say, that was a game that maybe Fury will look back on, or maybe they played that fight with a little bit too much confidence, because the 2v2 became a 2v1 very, very quickly. Then it was the 1v1, and all of a sudden, yeah, Timmy just wins those. It's very rare you don't see Timmy win those. Sticking that medkit, playing behind the knockdown shields, all the micro decisions he made in that final battle to give himself the advantage in the 1v1. Running away, looking for shield swap, getting behind the knockdowns to pop the medkit, and then having the advantage as well of having that height. I mean, it shows, I think, how many thought processes you have to go through as a player in a 5-second space, right? And I think Timmy is one of the best at analyzing so much information and making the right decisions a lot of the time.
I think it shows why Not Moist picked up a player like Timmy, right? Not only did he have that clutch moment in the 1v1, but it was also the angle he was taking before to force Furia to that high ground to just get them out of the angles they might have had on Not Moist. But then winning that, as you say, the clear decision to get out of that initial 1v1 fight, to go up the stairs, to get away was incredible. And then, of course, everything that followed was equally as immaculate. But 17 kills for Not Moist. There was no reason, right, to have a game like that. That's an explosive game to start, and it's no wonder that they pushed Bleed, who were inside that building, because they were just coming off the back of, 10 kills they've been able to find throughout the game. They would have been feeling themselves. They would have had red armors. They would have been saying, like, let's not let a team just sit in this building, and they continue to be aggressive, and they find themselves with a 29-point game.
That is an absolute monster, and if you were Not Moist before the games got underway today, well, maybe that has changed after that performance from Not Moist, because that is an absolute nukes to drop in game number 1. Elsewhere, no surprise to see not many points available for many other teams. Liquid Alienware were able to get 7 points on the board with those 6 kills that we saw them get on the southern side of Jurassic, just outside of Barrow. But I mean, Dan, there's only really one story to talk about, and it's Not Moist. Look at the damage, look at the kills, and how many 3v3s did we see them just wipe the other team without even taking a knock?
Yeah, I think the initial damage that was being done by Waltzy or Guild and then followed up by Timmy, or Timmy having an angle and being able to do damage from a distance as well. They fight so successfully. Ever since we've seen Timmy added to this team, and Timmy kind of gets given that support role at times, whether it's with a sniper rifle, whether it's with a long-range weapon on M&K, it's just such a beautiful mix of players that works out. And now Not Moist, who were outside of the regional places before today, start to find themselves with a real chance of not only regional finals, but now getting towards those numbers of maybe even making LAN.
Yeah, I mean, it is a crazy split so far, right? I mean, we talk about North America, how much talent there is, how many teams almost you feel like deserve to go to LAN with the amount of talent that's on there. And there's always someone that misses out that you feel, they really should be at LAN. They are that talented a team. They deserve their opportunity on the big stage. But Not Moist for me, with the amount of talent they have, Dan, with the amount of performances they put in, you can't see them not being there. And that kind of performance in game number 1 might be something that sets them up for success moving forward. But in the meantime, while we wax lyrical about Not Moist, it's time for us to jump to a break. When we get back, game number 2, it's coming at your face.
Is the official PC and monitor partner of the Apex Legends Global Series. Well, Not Moist certainly steal the show in that one, and it was a big time win, not just in terms of Not Moist getting what they desperately need, sitting in 21st place, but also the fact that Timmy clutched up the way that they got that win. Mark, that's just sending you momentum for days and days at this point, or at least the rest of these matches, because that's going to get you feeling good and the vibe strong.
Yeah, it certainly is going to make them feel very good, because there was a lot of 3v3s that they took in that game that they took without being knocked. And even when they assaulted this building that was held by Bleed Esports for quite some time, you know, the efficiency at which they did it. Yes, one player went down, but 2 players still alive with a lot of ammo as well. And it honestly was a little bit of a masterclass on how to fight your way and create a path for yourself in towards the zone. And then you sometimes in Apex Legends just need a little bit of magic. And I think you can see from this 2v2, kind of the thought process that I was trying to highlight from Timmy, right? He gets the finish and then moves into a position. He has full red evo, runs past the player towards the knockdowns. And from here, he knows that because of the fact that he's got the knockdowns in front of him, he can watch the jump ups. He can have the 2 players watch either side of him, block that damage that's coming in. And then in full shields, he's just got to hit shots. And nobody on M&K hit shots better than Timmy. So just a fantastic performance all around from Not Moist. And match number 2 is set up, and they're probably sitting there right now going, let's get into it. I'm ready to fight anyone right now.
It would be hard to name a clear-cut better individual team in terms of taking a 1v1 than, you know, Waltzy, Gildersons, and Timmy. I mean, you would expect almost any of them in any situation to take a 3v3. And I think that this is what makes this team so deadly. Yes, Rhythm hasn't been there for him, but with game 2 coming up, if they can just keep a little bit of this, they certainly will be looking not just towards regional finals, but finding a way to get back to the form that we expect from them. Such a talented team. Again, a little bit of a shout out onto the Challenger Circuit, July 20th to 22nd. Registration closes on the 17th, so if you're interested in joining, that's what you got to go. Battlefly.com/ALGS.
Well, game number 1 kind of sets us up in an interesting way for game number 2, right? Because Not Moist just took all the points from the lobby. So everybody else is kind of in a similar situation, the same situation before things got underway today. It's very, very close. And I think the only team really that can smile and have a little bit of a celebration after game number 1 because of the points tally they managed to put up is Not Moist. Now, yes, Furia had some decent points as well alongside it, but not quite on the same level. And I think considering the zone, considering the way they had to work their way through that was not an easy rotate for them to make down from Echo. So Not Moist at the moment feeling full of confidence, I would imagine, but sometimes that can bleed over in a way that you don't want it to. You take a little 3v3, you get a little bit overconfident in the first one, and all of a sudden it's a huge win followed by a 20th spot. So they've just got to make sure they regulate the adrenaline a little bit here and make sure they're locked in for this game too.
It was interesting talking to Privacy, the analyst of Falcons, and he said his job is really to spend as much time a week as he can to limit RNG. There's going to be RNG no matter what, but inevitably, no matter how good you are in a 1v1, you are going to have a little bit of RNG in terms of that. So Not Moist happy they won it. Don't need a 1v1 to win it all. Every game, though, they'd rather do it a little easier. And right now, well, easy is a good word to describe the position that they've gotten.
Yeah, I was going to say, that is a gift. That is an absolute gift for Not Moist. You win game number 1, you put a huge amount of points on the board, 29 in total, and then the zone goes, do you know what? You deserve a little pat on the back. It goes, Echo HQ, that's where you're dropping? Sounds pretty good to me. Amazing for them, obviously. For LG, they're making their way in as well, and they were the one team who had a very, very disappointing game number 1. So they've got a pretty good prior from Coastal Camp here to get into a good spot, and Not Moist, you just got to be careful here. They don't get caught on a loot path and get isolated in the way that LG actually did a couple of match days ago where Sweet got picked off.
LG, a great team also to just stay involved. Even if they have a couple of bad games, there's so many times that Sweet will earn just position points, placement points by staying alive as that solo, grabbing 6, grabbing 5. That way when they have that good game, and a lot of times they ramp up towards the end, that is a little bit traditional for LG, that they can then somehow make it into that top 5, do something that gets them into a good spot heading to it. Of course, it's one of those things, though, that is easier said than done, and you don't want to be put in that position. A team that's been put in the position, maybe they don't want to here, but certainly has all the tools necessary, is DSG. They came into match day 8 with only 15 points. They were the last place team overall, essentially, in North America, in all intents and purposes, and they found a way to get to 31 now. If they can add another 15 or more, it would look like they could jump into those regional finals and then have a shot at winning and getting themselves to land. But it's a tall task for them. They've set up a very difficult story. But hey, you know what? Those are sometimes the most important journeys, the ones that don't have a guaranteed route of success, and you got to make do with what you've got.
Well, Complexity are one of those teams who are going to have to fight for a qualification spot. We mentioned how they were inside of the auto qualifying spots. As we see a fight going down, we'll go back to Complexity in a minute, because inside of the broken armory here, you can see that NGNL are in a little bit of trouble. They've been eliminated in the meantime, and Fury are trying to move in to pick up some scraps inside of the armory themselves, but they're just kind of chasing ghosts at the moment and taking quite a little bit of damage themselves. However, they should be able to finish off a couple of these knocks, and that will be very, very comfortable for them to just to clear this spot, which will be something they want to essentially play for the long game here.
January, McLovin goes down as well. Fury looking for potentially anybody else who might be joining the fray, but they're a team that is so confident in taking these fights, and what they've done so well, I keep mentioning it, as you see EEC coach, he's found his way away from the fray, so will not be challenging Furia for that position again. Is just getting into good spots, Mark, to make their work a lot easier. You look at a team having to do so much and finding a way. I think of Natus Vincere yesterday, and resetting, dying, solo player, reviving, somehow finding a win. Furia just getting a good spot, and they make good decisions, and that is such an underrated thing. It's sometimes not the flashiest Apex Legends, but it's often the most effective when a team can keep doing it.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned minimizing RNG, right? That's what the best IGLs in the world can do. They minimize RNG through what routes they take across the map, like who can shoot us. We don't want that team to be looking at us and making those snap decisions. And I think Madness is, I've always had a lot of respect for Madness and his IGLing ability and the way that he's very forceful with it. He makes clear, obvious play calls to his team. He makes it very digestible for them. And I think that he's been a real kind of, I would say, staple to the success with some of the calls that he has been making. Liquid Alienware, they picked up some decent points in that first game, but it was mostly through kills on that southern side of Jurassic outside of Barometer. And at the moment, it's a little bit of a slower rotate for them because there's a lot of teams already inside of Echo HQ. They're kind of just doing the spiders at the moment. Stallions will be moving behind them inside of Barometer at the moment, as you can see there. But they're just looking for Evo at the moment. They want to make sure they approach this zone and they've got some Evo on those shields to work with.
And hard to worry about anything really Liquid Alienware does until you get to LAN or you get to regional finals. They're always a team that's in contention, currently sitting in 4th place right now. 2 second-place finishes in the first 8 match days that were played, now in match day 9, trying to add maybe a final win just to show people that we need to continue talking about them. But their questions lie very much like some of our top contenders at LAN. Can you do the ultimate thing? Can you win the match point finals? That remains to be seen. A team that got so close, 2nd place at LAN and championships just last year. Well, we talked about their story, Bleed Esports. We'll pick up with them on their rotate soon as Flat gets into an engagement. Mamba finding a couple of kills early on.
Yeah, you gotta be so careful with any of these fights that take place in and around Echo because there's so many teams already here and they're all kind of stacked up on each other. We know how Echo is kind of constructed, right? You have room on top of room on top of room that people will play. And if you are in a position where a team who's above you sees a knock on either side, you know you're going to get swung. So that's why you're seeing Flat, even though they got a couple of knocks there, they got to finish. They're not going to overextend to take this fight above. They don't really have a position where they can overextend knowing that someone else is going to be there. Elsewhere, though, I mentioned how Stallions are going to be wrapping behind Team Liquid. Well, Team Liquid did not check their backs.
Man, this is dangerous for both teams. So much firepower. Alberlelli, Retzi, Ram, actually going up against Liquid Alienware, who are certainly going to be trying to gatekeep this. Still playing in zone is Alberlelli, willing to take a little bit of damage. It's still just zone 2. And better go out when you know how to make a move. No ultimate yet. Maybe just trying to buy some time. 15%, then they've got the zip line. That changes how they can move through this fight and maybe try to avoid it completely, Mark.
I mean, they did get that initial knock, and I'm pretty sure they got the finish as well. So I think that Alber's actually... Oh, no, they didn't get... Did they get the finish? Yes, they did indeed. So it's only 2 players here from Team Liquid Alienware, which is why you're seeing them be aggressive. They know they can take this space because Team Liquid will have to retreat. They cannot afford to take a 2v3, even if they have this height advantage. And now that the zip is back, this is exactly what I expected to see from Stallions. They would essentially look for the Liquid position because they know they will be weak. They know that they can essentially play in behind them. And look at this from Alb. You know I love Pathfinder, everybody. You know it's a joke, but like Alb on the Pathfinder just feels natural.
Just grappling it out, and look at this. They got Jaguars back just in time. Can something magical happen on the top of the roof? Not with Alberlelli involved. Yanya falls, Niazul as well, and it looks like it could just be the end. Jaguars, the last one standing. They're looking for him. He's just underneath that building. They have a instinct that is going to be it, and that will be Liquid Alienware going down against Stallions. A strong 3v3 at the edge, and they lose.
Yeah, Ram's got the hands up on the Seer as soon as that final player was trying to escape, managed to find the position of him immediately, and all of them just chase it down. So Team Liquid Alienware, I thought for a second that they were aware of the Stallions' positions. I thought they caught wind of them being over at Barometer, but obviously they thought that maybe it's too deep into the zone. Maybe someone just caught off guard, whatever it was. And it's a mistake that you don't make twice. Essentially, you have to watch your back and you have to make sure that that area is clear. Bleed Esports now, though. They're looking to move in. A little bit of damage coming in. The CQ is going to be good. Flesh damage is good, but not good enough to get the knock.
Love this composition as well with the iteration of E8 with Zap, Shubi, and Zach obviously playing Seer Horizon before it really came into the fray. Bloodhound still took it over. It wasn't really going to be a working comp, but they had Catalyst as well. It's almost like they knew where the meta was going. Now Shubi on Bleed Esports doing a great job filling in the space that Skittlecakes left with dropped and knocked. 9 points so far. Looking to pick it up. 6th place and 5th place, their most common placements. They did it twice each position, and an 11th here in their 5 match days now. Looking for the 6th one to somehow be different. But Zapto, he's familiar with that Shubi guys alongside M and K. That's Reps and Verholz. They're going to be holding them out and saying, don't cross any further. We see you. This is not the space to go.
Yeah, TSM won a fight against Fluffy Aimers a few moments ago and now have managed to find themselves in a spot. Speaking of zone, by the way, we're actually going to shift away from Echo HQ towards the east side of Storm Point. So the funky pools continue. Maybe not the funky kind of tune that a lot of the teams who are inside of Echo HQ want to listen to right now, but TSM, they have this bridge position and they are in a very, very strong position for this endgame if they can hold this.
I mean, if you look where Zap, just if he turns around, almost kind of right here, but to the left, right there where he's looking up and over that ridge is where a lot of people thought this zone was going to pull. Now it's coming this way. They're actually right in zone, and they're feeling very, very good about their position from the high ground. and reps on the Watson. We've seen it more and more consistency in this game and in this match day. We've actually we heard it from Lufka, I think, or one of our interviews earlier, that just loves the meta, just loves the fact it's so balanced. It's great that Bloodhound is no longer dominating the force, a must play. Everything's running through that, and it's really opened up some diversity for the comps. And that's why we're seeing all these different characters as we get a top-down overview of what to expect here. That huge shift from that Southwest, like you mentioned, Mark. Oh man, it is going to be an exodus of all time here to try to make it into some safe spots.
Yeah, it's going to be a cull of teams on the oh my god, it goes all the way towards Devastated Coast. Wow. And that's great news for Complexity. We saw making their move a little bit earlier. Great zone call as well from Archaon on Native Gaming, and Oblivion are going to be there as well. Now, the difficulty of Devastated Coast is even if you're in a good spot, a lot of those buildings, you can guess by the name, right? Devastated Coast are broken buildings. So there's not a lot of cover actually inside of them. It's not like you're playing outside a checkpoint where all the buildings are fully formed and, you know, the architect has signed it off. Everything's kind of broken and there's not a huge amount of cover to play, even if you're inside of one of them. So it's a pretty tough spot to hold. You have to essentially use gun and presence and firepower to hold teams off. But I mean, just look at Echo HQ right now. It is ugly knowing that you've got to leave.
I mean, how are you getting into this? I mean, evac towers, yes, but there's so many teams that can get shot in an instant. One of the teams that might have to get a little desperate, they're on the furthest end of this, or they can get slower and walk it in, is C9. Let's listen in and see how they approach this next zone.
On the corner where we could push them, and then we might just full send it into them.
Okay. This team's looking. We're okay.
Should I run back to you guys? I think.
Yes. Okay.
We're gonna try to 3P Echo so that we're this edge team, but if not possible,
I've just got no shields to peek cannon, bro.
Just let me know when you want us to start coming to us.
dude.
I'm gonna start gap closing on you. I'm gonna start gap closing.
It's just one kid peeking this entire time.
Okay.
Gotta stop moving. I'm coming. Go slide into you now. I'm 2-1.
I get pride here. I'm okay. I'm batting.
Pop it out. I stuck one.
I need to slow down as well. I need a bat.
Well, you need to hurry the fuck up.
I'm ready.
I'm gonna bat.
Yeah, I see it.
Go ahead.
Boosting out this kid. Get out.
Getting out.
Force him. Just kill him.
I'm pushing him.
My
I got
card.
to the car.
Fuck.
I see you ulted forward.
He's running away. It's just one, bro. We could have killed him.
Got it.
I died.
I'm batting. Bang is weak. Bang. I got charge rifled.
Okay.
There's a guy on a good angle in our back.
Wait.
You're safe on me.
Chaotic, you're full safe. Oh no, you have to go in.
Walk in.
Yeah.
No.
On your right, careful, your right, bro. You gotta go in.
I just can't, bro.
Well, Chaotic, the name of the player in the situation. EEC, Kochi, the one alive. We saw him get away earlier in that fight against Furia. Well, he plays spoiler to C9's rotation, and Not Moist, meanwhile, still in first place, getting an onslaught of damage as well, but staying alive nonetheless.
Well, speaking of onslaught, here comes Not Moist, and it's LG who are being pinched at the moment by Furia and Not Moist, and you can see that they're in a horrible spot, and it will be LG eliminated very early on, relatively alongside their elimination in game one. So a slow start for LG, but nothing slow about the way that Not Moist are playing at the moment. They force that fight, they win that fight, but they now have to make their next play. Is it to try and move into zone? Temper eliminated as well. Stallions went. We're down to 12 squads, by the way, and Vanity could well be next, although Crook manages to find himself a little nook to hide in.
This is a desperation zone. I mean, this pull just is clearly either messed with some of the IGL's thoughts on it, or they're just saying, what can we salvage from this? Because no one's attempted to even get into the zone as it is now. A lot of players still just saying, we've got to play edge. If we move forward, we will be in the position of getting shot by 3 or 4 teams in front of us. It's not worth it, but you've got to do something. And I think C9 even, maybe if we can use them as the example, recognize that it was just one player. We should have pushed that, because what other option do we have? To die to 3 teams while we wait a little longer, or maybe to make something happen? And that's what I'm looking for in this game right now, Mark. Who's going to be the team that takes this lobby into their own hands? We know Complexity and Native are in good spots, Oblivion as well, even TSM at this point, but who is going to be the one that makes the lobby bend to their will?
I mean, TSM are in a great spot on the cannon because of the fact that they can hold out all of these teams who are moving in. They just have to be careful they don't get focused by 2 or 3 of the teams that are moving in at the moment. If they can just play their lives and they can stay alive long enough to output damage, then they should be able to actually clear this side of zone or be part of clearing this side of zone, which will make their next rotate even easier. But with DSG arriving, this is the unpredictable factor, right? DSG arriving late, trying to force their way into zone right now, force their way into a fight, and they know that they'll have to fight. And look at all the carnage now that is going down on this west side. This is TSM's chance to pick up KP.
Huge spots as well, making that devotion look good in the hands of Verholst, and he finds some damage there. It's early on for TSM, but look at that. Still mostly purples, not having to heal much. This has put them in such a good position because, you know, everyone they're shooting at is just running on fumes in terms of med kits needed, in terms of shield cells having to be popped, in terms of headshots getting shot. Zapto cleans one up. Empire Gaming go down, and we lose another 4 squads, and it could be another 5 here.
Oh, this Devo is illegal. In as a Verholst, you can give this man a knife and fork and he do enough damage in the lobby, but you give him a Devo and all of a sudden he can take the game over. TSM will hold that west side of zone. It's a fantastic performance from them. Not Moist still alive, just about. You can see Waltzy, and I think there might be one other player alive for Not Moist with him, but I mean, TSM now hold the high ground, but they will not be safe. Teams that will be are the ones that are on height. Native Gaming inside of that building, as Not Moist will be eliminated. By the way, Monsoon has charge rifled 2 people to death in this game, and Timmy is the latest victim.
You know, Minus Tempo is screaming enjoy somewhere. I don't know how people are playing this weapon. I really don't get it. But for someone like Monsoon to do the unthinkable with a weapon, yeah, okay, I'll give him that one. Still, Complexity trying to find ways to get out of their top 5 and break that curse that they had at LAN. Finding themselves in these final zones, but not knowing how to finish. Will this be a difference? Verholst is certainly on one. Flatline and Devotion. Is that the new Havoc Hemlock combo? We'll have to wait and see. Certainly, if it was like anyway we saw Kraber in the hands of Hawkes today, this will be a consistent feature. And something that would be very, very good for TSM as they play the backside of this building. Not quite in zone, so they will have to move. And it's a decision on how do they pressure Complexity fast enough to try to take that spot.
I mean, the thing is, Complexity is split hold in the buildings at the moment. I think TSM have recognized this, so they're trying to force their way into one of these buildings. And one way to do it is just put the Devo in someone's face. That's exactly what has happened. And now the flatline is going to hit some shots, but Zap might not be there in time to clean up this damage. Zap is a little bit late on his cross. He had to pop some batteries, and that will be the end of TSM. Complexity will hold.
And that's what Complexity was hoping for. They find these moments, they find positions. It was never a problem of getting into a situation to be successful. It was what do you do when that moment happens? And clearly Complexity had the answers for TSM's push. Zapto will have wished maybe just a second earlier he could have crossed and joined Verholst in the fight. But ultimately, it is Complexity who hold the low ground. 5 squads left, disguised up on top. And this is a great spot for them, especially when Design and his classic Sentinel being used. Native right underneath, sharing the building with them. Complexity down below, and Bleed Esports and Oblivion rounding out our final squads.
Well, this looks like something out of the Crystal Maze right now. You can see the dome has gone down. The exhibit is lighting up every single player who is inside of that elevated structure. The problem for all of these teams is in the next few moments, they have to drop because they are going to be forced in by the zone. And that makes the game a little bit easier for the likes of Bleed Esports, even as a duo, and Complexity, who are still a trio. Also, Oblivion, who are underneath this structure at the moment, might be able to just kind of sneak their way into position to pick up the KP as everyone does fall. But Designful has a chance to create an opening with his Sentinel. If he can hit a headshot, then maybe he can change their fortunes.
It's a difficult thing right now, and this is the Bangalore ultimate. That's going to force them to either take this damage or move. And I think they got to take the damage, hit a shield battery, and try to just withstand it, right? Because they can't fall down this early, so there will be maybe a little bit of healing and some slow pacing here. In fact, it avoids all of Disguise. I'm not sure how that was angled, but somehow don't take any damage from that one. That was from Bleed Esports, Oblivion, and now they're going to try to be pushing in as well. Disguise still on top. 5 squads left, and Reeds, this is Oblivion, who looks to be going down, and there's another Bangalore ultimate as well. Going to try to give space for DSG. If they can do it, they've got a tall task ahead of them to try to win this one, because sooner than later, they will not be able to stay here.
I mean, one thing they can do, though, is they can zip above Complexity. They can take a zip towards any of the buildings, any of the rocks, and obviously the fact that you get 50% less damage, it means they should be able to cross and at least put up some sort of fight. The problem is the whole lobby, including Lou with a devotion, lights them up. So Complexity continue to hold this spot. They will not give this up.
And Complexity are doing everything they need to do. This could be a win for them, but they cannot throw it here. Lou inside the building. Kimchi locking it up with the ferrofluid onto the doors. Rambo and Native pushing in as well. Snipe down, taking a peek. RKN with a thermite. It misses. And there's a Gibraltar ultimate. I can't believe a defensive bombardment's in a final zone in the ALGS in match day 9, but it's certainly doing damage. Native, they're still alive, but Complexity come in, and it's Complexity making it as simple as possible. They get the W to close out game number 2.
I have to commend Complexity for the way that they just navigated that end game. Yes, they had the best spot in zone, but that is the way to play that to perfection. It is the prioritization of targets. Who is our biggest threat in this moment? How do we deal with them? How do we protect our building and protect ourselves in that zone? Little things like taking the roof, right? Little things like taking the roof as soon as that zip line went out, because they know if they give up the roof, then their game chances of winning go down. So they all go to the roof together. They shoot, they fire, and they have the Devo as well, which certainly helps them out in that situation. I think it's a masterful game that we've seen so far from Complexity, and in that first game, Not Moist. We are seeing some really, really good Apex Legends from our teams who have managed to clutch up and win.
And the great difference between whether it's Complexity there is if they win that fight with TSM. If TSM wins that fight, well, that devotion's not in the hands of Lou, it's in the hands of Verhulst. So I'm pretty sure he's hitting just as many shots there in that situation, maybe even more based on the track record he showed earlier on in that game. So what Complexity did well for me was they recognized the moment that they had to get aggressive. They used their resources, ultimates and things to all in on the fight with TSM as they pushed. And that ended up being the fight that was really the last fight for them. Everything else was positioning, doing the majority of the work, and them just following up on good play. And I love it for Complexity because that's the hump we've always been seeing them try to get over. We did an interview in Venice. That's the thing they said they need to figure out how to do. And Mark certainly looks like they're putting their work where their intentions are and getting the job done.
Yeah, I think it's a really good point that you raised, right? I think the biggest fight for them in that was holding off TSM. TSM with a devotion as well. And I just need to go back and watch what happened to Zap on that cross. I don't know if he took a little bit of damage on the cross, if it was someone from height that just managed to crack his shield, which meant he was a little bit late because he had to pop a battery. Whatever it was, that was what gave Complexity the opportunity to pick up those first 2 kills and be healthy enough to deal with him coming in as a solo at the end. So interesting one to watch back for sure. But Complexity, I keep talking about how impressive that performance was. I think just prioritization of biggest threat was on point for every single decision they made there.
And that's the thing, too. In a lobby like that, it's a bit on who gets this position. And then I think ultimately I want to see more teams, particularly teams with the ability to make a play or have nothing happen for them, attempt to make that play, whether it was TSM. Before we were talking about TSM, it was Cloud9, who I thought could make a play onto Kochi. And that might have actually given them the chance to vie for that spot round south and maybe be in that fight instead of TSM. So I want to see these teams continue to make these moves. That's the only way you're going to do it. This is that do or die moment in ALGS, if there ever is one, besides a match point final. So shout outs to all those teams doing it. I think we had some stats come up. We may end up going back to those. But ultimately, Mark, it's great to see. I think there's a progression in some of these teams having confidence. And it speaks to 2 things. One, it speaks to playing more together in these types of situations, a la Furia, keeping the roster together, showing improvement, and a la Complexity, who, again, have just had a LAN together, had a whole nother split together with Kimchi Lee, who wasn't supposed to be a part of that team, but is still getting better. And so I love that progression we're seeing from our squads as they continue to grow.
Yeah, I mean, match 2 results, you can see here, the story was Complexity holding that spot, but I think the biggest story was the big shift away from Echo HQ that caught pretty much the entirety of the lobby off guard. So many teams had gambled on that being the POI where we would be ending this game, number 2, and it just moved completely away towards Devastated Coast, and it caught a lot of teams out who then had to leave, which is why you're seeing a lot of teams with not a huge amount of KP. Again, it's the top heavy KP from the teams who were inside a zone and watching everybody else have to leave Echo HQ. Some of the stats as well, impressive game, by the way, coming in from Monsoon. Charge rifle. I mean, Mon was the one who kind of brought the attention to the Sentinel, right? Everyone's like, why is Monsoon running around with a Sentinel? Like, well, what's going on here? And all of a sudden, everyone else caught on. Now the man's picking up charge rifles.
Oh, man.
Are we going to see? Well, Sear's back. I mean, charge rifle could be back. Who knows?
It could be. I mean, I would not put it past Monsoon. He just makes everything look so good for a man who got his start in streaming by being raided by Shroud, who accused him of cheating live on his stream. That's right. No, it's just the man who knows how to work snipers and cook a nice pork meal. I'll say that if you follow his X, better than almost anybody in the ALGS scene. Not Moist in the lead, Complexity right behind. One of the things I heard the other day that stuck with me is when you analyze everything that can go wrong, risk is what is left over. These teams need to expect the unexpected and be prepared to do what it takes to get a W. Complexity they got game 2. We'll find out what happens in game 3 after this.
Herman Miller is the official chair partner of the Apex Legends Global Series. Welcome back, everybody, to the ALGS North American Pro League, the final regular match day before we head to our regional finals. And after 2 games, I mean, we've had 2 teams that have kind of taken all the points away. It was Complexity with the win in our game number 2 with another surprising shift in the zone, Dan. I'm sure you enjoyed seeing that one.
I mean, I think everyone banked on it pulling further towards Echo, as it always does, but then the shift away just hurt so many squads. But a team that did get a little bit further was Native, and it was good to see Gibraltar in the final 3, like the good old days. We've got Seer back, we've got Gibraltar back. Everything seems to be returning to, I say the good old days. I mean, Seer being there wasn't necessarily the good old days, but now this meta is a lot better. I mean, we heard it from an interview earlier in EMEA. Some players feel like this is a more fair meta without the Bloodhound featuring as prominently. So we'll have to see whether things change a little bit as we get further into it. But a team that did enjoy it is Complexity. A big victory for them. They were already pretty dead cert for regional finals, but I think a victory here probably guarantees them regional finals. But now they can start to think about how they get to playoffs. And winning games is the best way to get even closer to playoffs.
Well, here's what has happened so far. If you're just joining us, welcome along. It's a perfect time for you to join. It was Not Moist who took home game number 1 with an absolute banger of a game. Timmy win a clutch 1v1 to close that game out for them. That big win set them up nicely for what they thought was going to be a good game number 2 as well, with an Echo HQ looking zone pulling away to Devastated Coast. It was all Complexities from there. But heading into game 3 now, I mean, we've got to question where the zone is going to go, because I don't trust them at this point, Dan. I'm going to say it. I don't trust them.
They've been a little bit cheeky today, haven't they? Just keeping everyone on the edge of their seats, and I think that that's a good way to play the game, because everyone's a little bit scared coming into the final match day anyway. You're worried, are you going to get to regional finals? Can you maybe secure your spot at playoffs? And the game says, how about we just add an extra little bit of confusion to the mix here and just keep things unpredictable? And we'll have to see whether we get more unpredictable zones or whether it's going to be a bit more of a dead cert, like a down beast zone that we saw earlier on in EMEA, for example, which everyone kind of knew where it was going to be ending up.
Well, let's see what surprises are in store for us now. I've now got to the point where I accept that my zone knowledge is not what it once was, and it's not actually my fault. It's the game's fault. I try my best, everyone. Trust me, I watch a lot of this game. But I think most of the lobby was caught off guard by that zone. And we'll have to see if there's going to be another surprise or if it's going to be something a little bit more consistent that we can all say, hey, we called that one. We knew where it was going, but But Complexity, a very important moment for them to win that game number 2 in the way that they did. It just solidifies their position in the overall leaderboards heading towards regional finals, like you say. But for the rest of the chasing pack at the moment, things still a little bit dicey.
Yeah, there's still a few teams that haven't yet found their form when they need to. I mean, a big second place for Native, for example. They're in 23rd position in the overalls. They are about 4 points shy of the top 20. So getting into the top 2 will certainly get them towards the upper echelon of this leaderboard, and will maybe give them that chance to get to regional finals as well, because it would of course be a massive disappointment if they weren't able to get there. But their backs were against the wall when they made that change, when Snipe Down was introduced, so they've had a lot to do, and they're certainly closing in on a potential regional finals. As for Complexity, as I mentioned, I think it's now starting to drift towards the conversation of can they make LAN. Being in 10th position at the moment, they are in one of those LAN spots, but with regional finals still to play, they have to be not only consistent today, but also find consistency when regional finals come around.
Well, an Elrod drop is going to be good for them as well, of course. It's one of the strongest POIs in the entirety of Storm Point, and I would say that the fact that they had to travel so far makes that almost a more impressive performance from them. Now, yes, of course, everybody was banking on the Echo HQ pool, and maybe they had a little bit more info than others when it came to where that zone is going to be going on their rotate through, being able to hit a couple of beacons, but it ended up being the right gamble for them, and it looks like, Dan, we might be going back to Jurassic again.
Yeah, it's not far off being the same zone as match number 1 here today. It is a little bit more covered on the south, I believe, so there is still a possibility of it shifting towards Pylon and the surrounding areas, but I think everyone will probably be banking on it being a Jurassic.
Where's your money?
All right, I'm going for Jurassic finish.
We're going to put 3 Skittles on the line here, okay?
All right, I'm going for 3 red Skittles on Jurassic.
You don't get to choose the color. It's whatever comes out of the bag.
Okay.
You're going
a yellow,
Jurassic?
Green, and a red.
I just said you don't get to pick. You picked again.
I just really want some red Skittles. All right, okay, so I think Jurassic.
Okay, I agree. I'll go Pylon just for the sake of it, just to make it a bit of fun. But anyway, it's definitely going to be Jurassic. Is it? Anyway, the teams who are already making their way there, Oblivion, again, is another opportunity for them to put in a good performance. So the fact that they have the zone right on their POI. Elsewhere, other teams are probably thinking, really? We're going back here once again?
But if you have just seen some like odd shifts, right? If you've seen a pull away from Echo, does it then change your decision? Are you thinking, is the game trying to mess with us at this point? But I think that Jurassic is a safe bank. Even if it does pull away from Jurassic, it's not the worst. I know trying to move through the Jurassic doors can be very detrimental, but I think it's harder to move from Pylon into Jurassic rather so than moving out of Jurassic into Pylon.
I will say, by the way, if it does go Pylon, I'm going to cheer, because it would be one of the most troll zone pools that will completely fry the brains and all of the wiring of every single IGL in this lobby, because no one is safe.
They'll start to question everything at that point. Their existence. Am I in the Matrix? Well, a lot of teams have banked on it being Jurassic. We can already see all of the early movers. Now, there will be the situation where the late arrivals might have to just commit to Pylon anyway, because you predict that no one is going to have left you space in Jurassic. So there is that possibility of, if there was a crazy shift, you might be able to benefit.
Sweet's gone down again. LG are having a rough one, to say the least, at the moment. It's C9 who get that first knock, and it was LG who are trying to force their position for one of the god spots. And Cloud9 quite simply said, how dare you, this is ours. And now, once again, it's about retreating, and Sweet, oh no, he's got a knockdown shield, is going to be finished off again. So Sweet goes down, and LG back down to 2. It has not been a Storm Point to remember for them.
But I guess that's okay and expected when they were the last pick on Storm Point. They will be playing from Skyhook when it comes to World's Edge, so they can certainly rescue this one. Playing from Coastal, maybe not the best POI for loot. It is the least desirable POI in the game, but maybe there's an answer. No, there was a small amount of hope for LG, but they go down in 20th position, and it will have to be World's Edge and Skyhook to try and rescue this match day for them.
I mean, I'm not going to lie. I've been watching Sykes' journey to becoming an Elden Lord, and I thought for a second there he was going to do something. He was going to have to summon a Mimic-Tear to try and get himself out of that situation, but he almost managed to do it, and it was unfortunately just not going to happen. C9 do hold, and it will be LG out early once again. Complexity now over at the cliffside is still having a little fight with the fluffy aimers, and should be able to move their way forward. This time, I like the idea that Complex Monsoon kind of walks towards a oak cabinet full of sniper rifles and just kind of flicks through them and decides what he's going to have today. It's like, charge rifle, sentinel. Oh, I actually feel the triple take. This is a good year for the triple take. So he's going with the triple take today. Kind of like that.
Just dusts them off and takes them off the shelf and still somehow performs with whatever long-range weapon seems to be in his hand. And I think that Complexity now getting that victory under the belt, finding themselves within the top 2, it takes a lot of the pressure off. Even though they weren't really looking like they would ever be not at regional finals, with the points they've already accumulated, they were almost guaranteed being there anyway. But their chances of getting to playoffs increases tenfold if they can have a good day today going into regional finals. So that's going to take a lot of that weight off their shoulders. And now they can look to kind of extend that victory, go into match 3 here, try and find yet another amount of points. Remember, they have one of the better POIs when it does come to Storm Point, so they are going to have one of the worst POIs when it comes to World's Edge. So it is important that you get the points on the board here for Storm Point.
Also, going into regional finals, it's much easier to think, hey, we want to be in a position where we only have to finish top 12 in comparison to we have to finish top 6. You know, all of those kind of things come into the equation a little bit. We saw Not Moist taking a little bit of damage there as well, but it looks like they were able to reset momentarily, if I'm not mistaken. Upgrade time. He's flicked back through that oak cabinet and he's found himself a sentinel.
I wonder if Complexity really what their plan is from this position, because they're going to have to go through potentially Bleed Esports and Eternal, who are all south of them. They could try and wrap around and go further west and then try and attack the zone from the north, which the zone is, by the way, shifting towards Jurassic, so our Skittles will not be disappearing today, no matter the color.
We get 3.
Oh, well, yeah, you did say Pylon, but I know you didn't really mean it, so I'd feel bad taking the Skittles away from you.
No, you have them. Oh,
can they be red ones?
Eternal EC trying to force their way in. I refuse to answer that question. Yes, you can have red Skittles.
Yes.
just so that you'll stop asking. You're like that annoying kid who like asks all the way home, like, can we stop? Can we get some food? And you just don't stop. And I'm the parent who says we have food at home.
You're the parent who says you can hold your bladder for 2 whole hours. I refuse to stop.
I was about to say, oh, your parents are really mean to you, but your parents are lovely, so I can't even say that. So anyway, Team Liquid. The Team Liquid are on the south side, just outside of Barometer still. Not Moist to the team who were having a little look at them, but decided not to involve themselves too much. Not Moist's rotation looks like it's going to be towards Pylon, unless Liquid Alienware present them with an opportunity maybe to cut one down. But you mentioned how you were interested in what Complexity are going to do. Well, they're going to hit a survey beacon to find out what everyone else is doing first.
Yeah, this will allow them to move from the north. I mean, it might. If they see the right thing on a survey beacon, it could get them going, and they can now move from the north. They might notice that there is a gap somewhere in Jurassic that they could land on, or they could try and push in from. They can certainly take the buildings that are just north of Jurassic for now, and it is playable space that they can survive in, and maybe even just get into the top 15 as their first aim.
This has been a wild cast so far. I'm enjoying it very much. Fluffy Aim is trying to make their way to a little bit of a safer spot. DSG, though, they're going to have to be forcing a fight right now. You can see the Cat Q is going to slow this down just a little bit. QZ is trying to make sure he takes care of all of those Cat Qs. The Thermite's going to slow it down. They will be safe inside of this next zone, but you can see they want to be aggressive and they want to try and take some space. QZ is going to fly through here and might find a player on a head glitch, and a head glitch is good unless you've got a player who can hit all of those headshots, and Designful looking to play off this damage, but he might be caught out here, but just about manages to stay alive. The first knock comes in from Enemy.
Great knock from Enemy.
Oh my god.
It is going to be Disguise getting the wipe. Vanity going down in 19th position, and now Disguise, not only do they get the victory there, but they also now have this position on the northern side of the circle, which is going to be within the next 2 zones. So a good chance to get not just further into the top 15, but maybe even a top 10 with the amount of teams that are still without a position at the moment in these zones. So really important win for Disguised, and still continues their journey of trying to get to regional finals. Remember, it was going to have to be a very big match week for them. They find themselves within the top 10 at the moment. They're 28th in the overall standings. They have to have one of their biggest match weeks ever if they're going to be in regional finals.
Well, EC trying to force their way past Complexity at the moment. Complexity holding the edge of zone. Is purple, 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 purple. It's a purple party over here when it comes to armors. A lot of P's. Quite happy you got that one out, as we've always almost managed to had a little bit of a slip of the tongue a little bit earlier when we threw out to the break, but instead it's going to be Sentinel in the hands of Monsoon, looking to see if they forced them away enough and that their back isn't going to be wrapped here. So Complexity do their job essentially at this point. They keep themselves kind of in a position where they can hold other teams out, force Eternal EC away, and now they might be able to actually move behind them and pinch them.
I was just looking whether there was a ring console or anything that Complexity could use to gain any more information, but I don't think there is. Instead, it's going to have to be going off gut instinct and what they saw from their previous survey beacon. Eternal, maybe you're just trying to go a little bit unseen here. And perhaps we're a little bit concerned about Complexity looking at them, or they are trying to ambush someone above them. I can't see it on my mini-map right now, but yeah, the fluffy aimers are just north of them here. We've got a potential ambush on the horizon.
This is going to be a sad moment for Hambino. Yep, sad moment complete, and it looks like they will be able to at least force these players back in the zone. They get that knock, but the problem is, right, Eternal EC, they get 1 KP, but what next? Right, do they have an evac tower to get near zone? Can they get into a position where they can actually approach the zone comfortably? Because Disguised are inside of the tunnel. Complexity are looking at this as well, and this just might be one of those plays that's like, well, where are you trying to get out of this? You get 1 KP, but you're probably just going to die moving forward.
This is really going to annoy the fluffy aimers, especially when they realize it's EEC, because I mentioned at the start of the show, Eternal need to win today, really, if they are going to get into the regional finals, whereas the fluffy aimers, they are in 22nd position. They are just outside of getting to regional finals, and things like that happening, getting ambushed by a team in last place is always going to hurt. Now, Complexity, they look pretty comfortable right here, but they have to make a journey from north to south, and it'll be a good chance to jump into a listening and see how the comms are with Complexity.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, let him in here. No, I see it. We need to fucking kill this.
Yeah, I got a bat here.
Okay, I'm trying to hold.
31 on blue on one.
Okay, I'm gonna push up off this, okay? Is he moving to the left? What are you seeing?
I can't tell.
They're just I'm scanning it right now.
Good scan.
Double scan. One died.
About to kill one, boys.
Can we get that kill before the other team gets it?
I got the kill.
Nice.
Okay, there's another team on the
still this guy
southeast.
here.
I'm healing on now, okay?
Okay, I'm moving to this rock right now.
Yeah, we need to play. No, we need to play into our spot. Careful about angles. Careful of the cross. You need to make sure that you're safe on the cross. Don't take damage on the cross.
I'm really safe right now.
Is it 2 teams over here?
Yes.
Yeah. One far,
I think
one inside
team's
Jurassic side.
like waterfall side, and one team's pulling like this.
We have more space on our side.
On me, guys! On me!
I'm coming.
I'm scanning first.
I hit him on purple.
Scanning. I have to heal from behind.
We need to kill this.
They bang onto me. You have to smoke. They're on you, man. On us.
I know. Just back. I mean, we can play smokes too. Safe on me. Not really.
I feel here. I'm probably fucked here. Okay.
On me.
Okay, that somehow hit
My
me.
Bangel's coming down. No, nothing on Bangle. Once hit 90. No smoke for 20.
Got him. I'm back here, boys.
One crack. Pushing. Flash. Nice.
Nice.
Play my rock.
I am.
Getting rid of the down shield.
They're coming behind us. We gotta get these kills, boys.
We do. We will. Give me the kills, please. Come back to me. No, dude. Fuck. Where's the outside Jurassic team?
Not Moist eliminated. Complexity we've just seen fall as well. Eternal EC, the team on the other side of that fight that was stalled out, they've gone as well, and Flat have been eliminated too. Bleed Esports were the last of the party, Dan, and they're the one who leave with the spoils.
Yeah, Bleed now push themselves into the top 5, but it's not over for them yet because Native Gaming now having a little peek towards this one. This can happen in a circle like this where it's very difficult to find positions within Jurassic. People start to kind of move towards any sort of commotion that they hear happening on the outer edges of the map because KP is available for them. As now the bubble goes down, that will be indication that it is Native that Bleed are fighting against.
Arcstar's going in, dropped will go down though. Shubi gets that knock to even up the numbers just a little bit. Nock's going to arrive late here, but can he clutch up? That's the question. It's a fantastic spray onto a player who was tiptoeing around a knockdown shield, but not quite close enough to it. Native Gaming, they get run over, and it's going to be Bleed who will survive once again, but their next rotate is a little bit more comfortable. TSM will be in a position to try and hold them out. DSG still inside of that tunnel themselves as we take a look at Furia.
Furia, NGNL, Board, Disguise, and Bleed all have to still approach this zone, and it's going to be teams like TSM, like Liquid Alienware, like Temper, who are going to have eyes on all of these squads arriving late and have the potential to ruin their day, or just ruin this game, to be honest, and get some KP. Bleed, if they wanted to, can maybe force their way and wedge their way into zone, but there's lack of playable space really worries me. Lack of cover when you get to a zone like this.
Easy kill here for Vaxilon, playing off the damage. It should be 2. NGNL Esports, well, they get run over as well. No real contest there between them and Furia, who continue to move forward. And with Vaxilon with a bow check in his hands and an evac as a possibility as well, they might be able to move into a position where they can force their way through this tunnel. Evac goes down. He forces the team away. They throw the bang ult to clear that team away, and now they're going to try and stick it. But Keon, he's got a heal. Does he make the heal? Does he stick it? Vaxilon's got to do the same. Madness is falling, and it looks like Fury are going to have to walk this one in.
TSM, they moved south to have a little look at Furia there, but now they're back into the building to look towards Bleed, and it's going to be Bleed trying to push their south in as Furia will just fly on in from the south, taking on Stallions, and Stallions get eliminated, but Furia may go down alongside them. Just Keon left.
Knockdown shield could be big here, though. Keon is on his own. Bleed Esports will be eliminated by TSM, and now you're going to see Cloud9 move in to finish off Furia. But can they get the shield swaps? Is there any available? There's Skynades going up from Team Liquid. Sorcerer might have one fall on his head, and now Oblivion looking to get involved, but they're getting absolutely decimated as well.
Oblivion go down. Now Liquid Alienware against Cloud9, and also TSM versus Disguise. Disguise trying to take this position off of TSM, but TSM very low, but still have just been able to scarper away to be able to reset. The push has not allowed Disguise to get the knocks they would have wanted, and actually they've lost Designful, but now we get a trade. Disguise, though, will be eliminated. 5 squads remain. TSM holds strong onto their building here.
Should be able to get a reset here as well. It was not finished off Reps, so Reps can get back into this game. Elsewhere on the other side of the zone, Board now having a little look at Temper. A little bit of surprise fall and a little bit of a swing now coming in as they try and finish off the last player inside of this building. They will be able to do that. Board take down Temper, and just like that, the lobby is reduced to just 4 squads. We have Team Liquid Alienware, TSM, Empire Gaming, who are a solo, I believe, on that low ground, and Board.
Yeah, Empire with a chance to really disrupt things and maybe annoy a team and be a thorn in their side, but the likelihood is Empire will not be winning this game. Instead, we're going to be looking to our full 3. So TSM on the far east. Liquid Alienware have to approach from the south, but I said about this zone, there is a lack of cover to work with. So if you can find any sort of anything to hide behind, whether it's a rock, whether it's a blade of grass, something that will give you cover, it could be very advantageous when we get to this final circle, as now Liquid Alienware will move in as they start to target Board here.
They can throw the bang ult. They want to force them down off of this sniper nest that's in front of them. You can see the pings coming in. They know where that team is. Yanya is trying to create space, trying to get underneath them so that they don't get hit by those lines of sight. And by doing so, unfortunately for him, the Rolling Thunder from Zap is going to take him down. It's a beautiful bang ult coming in from TSM. And all of a sudden, TSM are overlooking all of this. Team Liquid Alienware are eliminated. We're down to 3.
This should be TSM's game. Surely there's no way they throw this one away from here. Empire as a solo, and they're against Board. So really, they just have to wait for the solo to kind of get involved and maybe do a little bit of damage. TSM are closer to this zone as well. Board will have to drop first and get involved. The only worry for TSM is lack of cover, but they've been able to find a little ledge to work with.
Also, getting absolutely nailed by a triple take is going to help if you're trying to force your way onto their position. Board will have to drop, and Board have just dropped. They've swung out to the left, I think, and they're trying to take some angles, and TSM decide, hey, let's just back up. Let's reset. Let's let the lobby take care of itself. Empire Gaming will be eliminated, so the solo has gone, and the triple take, again, is still causing them some problems. They have to just bide their time here, TSM.
It's not actually as much of a guarantee as I first thought now that the Empire solo has been eliminated so successfully by Board. Very impressive from them to recognize it was a solo. It could have been a thorn in the side, but they quickly ensure that they take him down. So now it's a straight 3v3. Yes, Board do have to drop first, but there is certain cover that they can play with. If they use smokes effectively, they can smoke out TSM and get into a position to maybe take some high ground away from them here. This is going to be a very interesting engagement, and Ultimates could be a huge difference here. You can see Verhost has smokes to work with, but no bang ult that he can put down.
Jen is down as well, so grenades aren't going to be effective. TSM will be able to eat those up. Reps is playing the anchor role at the moment, and he's maybe going to look for a stick as a player tries to fall, do a little bit of damage on the way down. Reps is now going to have to move up to his teammate, but the catwall is going to force TSM away. But there's the Gen doing its job. It's going to eat up all of those grenades that are being thrown, and MJ takes some damage. The scan comes in, and TSM realize that he's isolated. They're trying to swing on him.
I love the catwalk to try and take the high ground, and I love the swing from TSM as well, and they do get the opener here.
Zap will get that opener. Verhulst will follow up, and Verhulst will finish off as well. TSM will win the final game here on Storm Point. And the Watson pick was one of the big reasons for it. Great shots initially, great recognition of where that player was a little bit isolated, and TSM they execute beautifully.
TSM send themselves into first place after Storm Point, and they put themselves again in that conversation. We said if they have a just good match week here today, if they find one of those second places that they've seen before, the first places we've seen before, LAN will be guaranteed, and TSM will once again be playing in front of a crowd in Mannheim, Germany. And with a performance like that, that should be enough points to really secure them in the overalls. But they'll want to win this entire match day. They will want to try and prove a point and put themselves up there with the likes of Falcons, the likes of SSG, the likes of Furia, who have been able to take away so many points in the previous match weeks.
Yeah, very, very impressive stuff from TSM in that end game as well. And I think, you're always looking for an opening. And one thing that you take yourself back a few weeks, I mean, you probably saw the Verhulst, probably the most animated I've seen him at one point in an end game where he was like, why did we not do anything? We didn't push left, we didn't push right. We were just split about doing nothing. It felt like there was a real kind of clear decision that was being made at all points about who they wanted to focus and how they wanted to focus in that end game. And Evan will bring you back in as well to have a chat about this, because TSM look like they are making some real solid decisions at just the right time as well.
I love what I'm seeing from them. There's a level of maturity that ends up showing up when I look at TSM again, because again, just a huge task in the middle of your season, in the middle of a year 4, things change. And so you've got to find a way to create even leadership conversations that were not a thing before. Verhulst was not used to yelling at his teammates like that. He was receiving a lot of that admonition, or he was receiving, having to talk back about his experience and why that didn't go that way. It was one of the biggest things that I feel has really opened up his opportunities to say what he thinks, to do it in the way that he feels comfortable with. Clearly Reps is on board. Clearly Zap is also on board, and they're listening to him. The energy around TSM, well, it's hard to compare what the dynasty was from them in terms of success. In terms of vibes, it does feel like they've got the right mix right now. And a 25-pointer, well, that's easy to point at that, but it also looks at these bottom 10 teams. And I mentioned this a little bit about LG, 0 points. That's a little scary for me right now. Obviously, EEC, man, they've played spoiler to a lot of teams. You saw it with Native. You saw it with Complexity. You saw it with C9 now. They've done it with 4 teams now at this point. So what's going to happen with them? Still getting involved, getting kills. I like to see it. But as we go over to series results, guys, obviously TSM with that win, damn, they put themselves in a position to lead this group on their final match day.
Yeah, lead the group and go into World's Edge, where, again, I mentioned at the top of the show, they had a draft POI pick where they were kind of in the middle for the picks. They were going to have 2 pretty average POIs. So to pick up 43 points from Storm Point puts them in such a good position for World's Edge now to really try and take this match week. But they are not too far behind are Not Moist. And Not Moist, and it's an entirely different story for them. They are trying to get within the regional finals. TSM are already there. They're looking to try and secure themselves at LAN, but Not Moist, with the way they've been playing, regional finals look like a dead cert at this point.
And what's interesting too, a team that's in 6th place or was in that final zone board, they're also in 19th place, tied with UCX, CCE, who are not playing today. So they just need a few points. Right now, they've certainly looked like they're going to set themselves up to be in top 20 for regional finals, which is what you can hope for at this stage of the game. Somebody who is going to be in those regional finals as well is going to talk to us about what's been going on, the changes here in Apex Legends, as well as what's happened these last 3 games. It's NRG Hodzik here with us. You see him at LAN. You see him on the halftime show. Hodzik, welcome back. Thanks for spending some time with us today.
I mean, it's always good to be back, man. Love being part of these casts.
And OG, you really do get the OG cast member, card, I think, at this point. So it feels natural. We are wishing you guys the best. I know you obviously want to be competing. Right now, you're sitting in 9th, currently qualified. We'll see if you can maintain and improve upon that. But what I want to know, and I think a lot of people want to know, is because you've got such a great mind for the game in your coaching position, what is your thought on this new meta, this new season that has given the rise to Pathfinder, officially kind of ended the must-have Bloodhound Bangalore meta? What is your take on it, and what can we expect going forward here as we look towards the end with these regional finals and obviously looking towards lands in terms of compositions?
I think I echo kind of a lot of the sentiments a lot of the players and stuff do right now. It's at the moment it's pretty painful with the way people are playing Fuse, because you kind of have to, right? If everyone's doing, you kind of have to do it as well. But I think we're actually like a couple changes off from actually having a really, really fun meta. I mean, the fact that Pathfinder's back, I think I don't think anyone's going to complain about, like, you know, fast like teams being able to zip to spots that they want to play and stuff like that. Like, I think Path is just a fun character to see in meta. I do like Fuse, just the whole balloon exploit thing is kind of annoying, but I was not a fan of the last meta at all. Obviously the I can't see anything meta was just like quite horrible. Yeah. So I think like Bang's in a pretty healthy state. Obviously Seer takes the cake for, you know, being your wall hack type character now. So, you know, I think we all feel pretty similarly about Seer, but overall I think it's actually like we're a couple changes away from a really, really, really fun meta, I think.
Well, firstly, I'm going to jump in and say hello. It's great to see you as always. I want to talk a little bit about your season so far. NRG, it started off extremely well, and, you know, we're good friends. We can talk about this, right? It's 15 points game day number 1, 12 points game day number 2, 13, 16. Then we have the meta shift coming in, and 1 point and 4 points respectively. Talk to me as honestly as you want to about this, how it's impacted your team and what's kind of not quite clicked for you in those last 2 game days.
Sadly, I don't think it's anything to do with meta shift for us. And I say that because we've just been, the last 2 game days have just been full of really, really frustrating mistakes. And what I mean by that is, if we have like a macro mistake, like our team comp is not right, or our maybe our POIs aren't great, even with like not great POIs, we usually can produce decent points from them. You know, when it's a bad mistake, I can work all day with, you know, our comp is off, our approach to zone is either too early, too late, all that type of stuff. That is so adjustable for me. But what's frustrating for me is that we've been in last 2 game days has just been full of really small micro mistakes where one person is just not necessarily maybe doing their due diligence to make sure like the spot that we're about to play is open, is completely secure, maybe not watching the back. Really small micro mistakes that happen to everybody, but the last 2 game days have been just completely full of them, where it doesn't feel like we're all really on the same page. And it just seems like it's just the really small things that like only happen once or twice a game day. They seem to be happening a little too much. So it's been frustrating for me, but I've been trying to work my best on it to try to iron those out a little bit.
Well, I'm excited to see what changes for regional finals for you guys, but now it's my favorite part of the show because I get to pick your brain on some of these final circles and what you may have seen. Match 1, we had an incredible victory from Not Moist. How impressed are you with how they performed in this opening game?
I mean, this team is just, I've always, if anyone watched the last LAN, especially the broadcast, I was a huge fan of this team. Them throwing Timmy on, I've actually been a big fan of this. I think Timmy just brings a really good energy to a team, so really happy to see them just absolutely just kind of pop off here. I mean, they're such a great team. They're so strong. I think the world of both Waltzy and Guild. So it's no surprise to me. They've been in a little bit of funk themselves, but it's just really nice to see them come back and look like they're their prime selves.
And it was a great 1v1 in the end from Timmy as well, showing his experience, showing why it was an amazing pickup from Not Moist winning this engagement. I think we were all impressed with what we saw. MK not dead. It's very much alive. Match number 2, Complexity were able to get the victory, but it was an interesting zone shift away from Echo. Did you see this one coming? Would you have called this zone?
Weirdly enough, a lot of Echo zones, I think, kind of tend to like be bait recent, like these days, right? Like last meta, before we had this like little ring patch, it feels like almost every zone, if it was in Echo's vicinity, it was going to be Echo. Now it feels like that's kind of like that logic has kind of shifted a little bit, whether that's just, you know, small numbers and we haven't played a lot of these zones yet, I don't know, but I did not predict the zone. I think Complexity played this beautifully, Monsoon, with the big calls on calling Lou off there just to be like, hey, like we just need to hold outside, we need to kill these guys up top and just play for all the kills. We're also excited because I feel like we're seeing the old Monsoon back again.
The old Monsoon back and thriving. Now we had this final 3v3 in Jurassic. TSM able to get the victory in the end. A lot to consider here, though, of the position that you play and the ultimates you have available and any utility. What did you see in these final moments?
I mean, TSM just is in like the most perfect spot you possibly can be, right? They're sitting in the center zone. They don't have to move anywhere, and they have a Watson, which is just like, that is the dream scenario, because Watson's a character obviously that doesn't like to move around a lot. You know, you want to pick up a spot, you want to hold it down and play off that. And especially in pro play, you know, utility is so important. The way you use your smokes, the way you use your grenades, or any other throwable utilities. Watson's amazing for that, right? If you have her in the right spot, but that's usually the big if with Watson. So obviously TSM played it really patient here, just playing their head glitches, waiting for them. They know they have to board us to drop first, and just absolutely beautiful play. The Watson pick coming in really, really clutch big time. I love seeing this team bounce back as well.
Well, Hotsick, Watson played a huge role in our last Split 1 finals. In fact, the team who won, Reject Winity, was using a Watson as well. They were also using triple takes, but we won't go into that. One thing, though, that is so human about this, and I love the way that you approach this with us, the honesty of sometimes you just have these mistakes. Reject Winity will not be defending their LAN title. Whatever those little mistakes was, it was enough to mean that we will have a new champion as well. So I say that only to say it happens to everybody. Bad splits happen to everybody. We've highlighted that as well. But also, for someone like you heading into very important regional finals, and obviously we hope LAN, what's the one thing you think you can control the most for your team that you're going to focus on here to get them ready to go and get the results you guys know you deserve?
Most of it is just like, I feel like our gameplay is just kind of discombobulated. We're not on the same page, and that's something I've been trying to work on, and it's been getting a little bit better, but it's just this last game day was definitely kind of it was technically an improvement over the one before it, but it was still, we still got a little bit to go. I know the players weren't 100%. Reptar was like super sick all weekend, and I could, yeah, you know, you could tell he was having trouble holding any food down for like 3 days. So that's a little tough when you have to have a game day on something like that. But you know, I'm sure we can bounce back. I mean, if you watch the EWC qualifiers, you know, only top 2 teams out of 150 move on. So, and we really, it was a little rocky start for us, but we came back and we won it all. And I have no doubt in my mind that Knock and Fond and Rep can bring it back together.
Well, I'm sure they appreciate you standing by their side and keeping the vision for where you're headed in alignment with them. Thank you, man, again, for hanging out with us on the broadcast. And one way or the other, we do hope to see you in Mannheim. And of course, good luck in the regional finals.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, Hotsick, coach of NRG, talking a lot about, you know, the struggles, the ups and downs. I mean, that is the reality of competition as well. It's so much of a mental game, emotional game, physical game, being sick. We just see the digital part. That is what makes esports unusual. But right now I want to take Mark to go on a break here, I believe. And me and Dan will get going here for this cast in game number 4. But yeah, talking about it, Dan, there's a lot of international competition right now. You got Copas, you got Euros, you got the ALGS. I know those are basically the top 3 in the world going on right now. And but at the end of the day, yeah, sometimes it's physical. Sometimes it's just a mistake. You do everything right, and there's nothing else to say except I missed a shot or I wasn't paying attention. Sometimes that's as simple as it is. And I always want to highlight the humanity of these athletes that are competing, you know, on the stage for us.
Well, we joked before broadcast about the difference between the Euros and the Copa with the lack of extra time in the Copa. Well, extra time equivalent in ALGS is going into regional finals, right? To be able to get that one last chance to get to LAN. And there will be some teams who have to rely on getting a victory there. Now, as we look across at the POI draft, we mentioned it. LG had an awful time on Storm Point, but they were down at Coastal. Now they're going to be at the best POI on World's Edge from SkyWest. And DSG, a team who need a big match week as well. They're landing down towards Thermal, a very familiar POI for them to work with, and Native at Monument. So 3 of the biggest POIs that has seen success, that has arguably one of the better loot pools. 3 teams who kind of need it for different reasons. LG want to be able to put themselves on a pedestal so that they can secure LAN, whereas DSG and Native both still fighting to try and get into regionals.
TSM and Climatizer West as well, a familiar place for them to be able to hold through. And now heading to our bottom half of these picks board, who was in that final 2. They'll take Lava Fisher right outside of the western side of this map. Mirage Etoile, you go to the other side, and there they are. Furia, a team we expect big things from. They certainly put it together to get a match day win. Can they go back to back? Stallions, who have been around and really involved in a lot of these fights. They'll land Dome, hold some of the southern side of this, and Complexity as well on the south with Tree. C9 rounding it out in Epicenter too. Just good spots, consistent spots for these teams. The rotations, not too complicated, but where will our first zone go? That often decides it, Dan, and makes one of these decisions look like you're a genius or maybe a fool.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the things you can't control in Apex. One of a few things, of course, but there is always going to be those teams that thrive in that element of change and being able to adapt on the fly of where that zone's going to shift to and how to move your rotation. And that's one of the beautiful things about the switch to the POI draft, is that you have to always be thinking on your feet. It's not going to be the same thing every week in, week out, where you have about 4 or 5 rotations you do every single time. Instead, you have to be good from almost every POI and almost every single segment of the map. So it's going to be a very interesting match number 4 to see how things go, certainly on World's Edge. I'm really curious as to how LG bounced back after a expected disappointment on Stormpoint with their POI draft, but also the 2 teams that I highlighted as well, the likes of Disguised, who have to have a big week to be able to get through. Can they now find something on World's Edge? Will we see Disguise in regional finals? That's one of my big questions. And certainly Native Gaming as well, with the change coming through with Snipedown and his history in console esports in general, and now moving into PC esports as well. I think that he is one of the best controller players that we've seen throughout multiple titles, and if he wasn't in regional finals, I would be surprised. So we'll have to see whether Native Gaming can get there or not.
One of the interesting elements about that pick with Native as well is that Snipedown is on the Seer, and one of the interesting remarks Furia Keon made yesterday in his MVP interview was that was what freed him up, not really having to play an ability type legend like a Fuse and giving that to Madness, who's on MNK, because it's so much easier for that MNK player to really aim those abilities accurately and not, you know, kind of slightly miss it onto a ledge or something that can happen with a controller at long distance. Curious to see how Snipedown can take on that Seer. We know he's got the experience, but sometimes, yeah, it is a little bit more comfortable for those MNK players to do it, but they're rocking to Gibraltar as well. So it seems like Arcane's just trying to get everything as, you know, as even as possible. Something's not going to be perfect, but at the end of the day, hopefully they can get some results here as they look to start their game in Game 4 on World's Edge and get a little momentum.
Well, TSM starting up towards Climatizer here, and where they're going to be dropping for the next few games, of course, in the zone. We are going to be heading a little bit closer towards Skyhook. Now, the zone, in the way it has been shifted, I wouldn't be surprised if we do end up within Skyhook, but there is always that possibility of a zone shift, and we've seen a few zone shifts today. But for TSM, they are going to have to move their way through likelihood survey camp, then through the train tracks, then into Skyhook if they wanted to play that. If they want to bank on a zone shift, they can play to the south of Skyhook, of course, but looking at that circle, I think that Skyhook is a good prediction. If you want to be kind of 50-50, you could try and play the vault area, and it looks like both Temper and Oblivion having a little race towards it in the moment, but Temper might have just pipped them.
Tough spot for that as well, because, you know, there's that high ground nearby. Very easy for a team to hold and kind of contest you on. If you want to stay it's harder for you to hold fully, although you can do it for a couple of rounds as teams start to rotate and find some KP. There's just not, if you get pushed off of it, there's really nowhere to go except maybe one of those little cars that might be available. But TSM on that top side, like you mentioned, going to have a nice rotation. Survey camp should be open for now. Cloud9 have already made their move in behind Bleed Esports. So we'll see how this develops. But one thing I did want to bring up is just Not Moist and LG taking Skyhook West, Skyhook East. Oftentimes you see Skyhook West taken by LG in this round as the #1 priority. And then sometimes Skyhook East is the last priority because you don't really want what is the closest thing to a contest in some of these new POI draft spots if you don't have to. But teams like Not Moist, do you think that makes it easier for both teams to recognize, okay, LG, Not Moist, we really don't want to fight. Either of us know we could win this, so let's just truly 50-50 split and not get aggressive?
Yeah, I think it's two teams who are intelligent enough to know how detrimental it could be if you start trying to fight a little bit too early, and especially two teams who are looking to do very different things as well. LG just looking to try and be consistent, secure playoffs, whereas you've got Not Moist who still are thinking about just qualifying for regional finals. So a very different approach, and it will mean they just kind of are nice to each other, certainly in match number 4 and 5. Maybe things change depending on how match 6 the lay of the land is, but with the zone coming towards Skyhook, it's actually brilliant for Not Moist and LG because they are going to be able to just loot up in their POI, find a building, and comfortably reside. I guess the downside is you won't necessarily have the armors that some are going to have on the late arrivals. So you really do have to try and improve those armors by shooting out of the people that arrive late. Try and get those evos up a little bit so that you can at least have blues, if not purples, to try and contest.
Tons of Sears in this lobby as we break down a little bit of the Sky West action so far over in Skyhook. We'll keep you posted on if that changes, but Fuse, Hodzik said you kind of have to play it. One of the reasons it's always good to have a Watson in a lobby where people feel like you got to play a Fuse is that not everyone plays it. And so you have that kind of natural counter to those knuckle clusters, if possible, more so than most of that lobby. Now they go, you know what? We want to be the ones who are getting aggressive. Storm Point, we expect maybe a few more areas where it'll pull into an open rock, someplace we can't predict. So the Watson defensiveness, we'll go for that. But now it feels like they want to join the club with this World's Edge pick. And, you know, I'm all for it. I think it's a great character. It's just interesting sometimes how that Watson, whether we talk about it or not, whether she's played or not, she always ends up showing up as a big factor when we get to LAN.
You spoke about Sia, and a lot of them, it's a 100% pick rate for Sia. So the Sia meta officially back in North America, and there was that question of whether this would happen when we saw Bloodhound have those changes, and suddenly now Sia is the #1 information legend, and alongside Bangalore at 95%, instead of it being the Bloodhound bang meta, it is the Sia bang meta. But certainly it's less visual clutter. It isn't the we can't see anything meta that we had previously and having to rely on that Bloodhound. So at least there is that change, but it does mean that third spot, it opens up as to who are you going to play. Is it going to be a Fuse? Is it going to be a Watson? Is it going to be a Catalyst, for example? What do you need to add to those legends that is really going to help you the most in your game of Apex?
Well, actually, what started that point for me that I kind of thought about was the impact of getting silenced by a Seer to a Watson, who's pretty much got her fences down. He's got her pylon down. It's really no impact. But getting silenced as a Fuse, getting silenced as a Catalyst in an in-game where you have to drop that Dark Veil, you need to throw that knuckle cluster to add the pressure, or a Motherload is going to be open now and not in 2 seconds after they cross that threshold. That's huge. So in many ways, I do feel like Seer, it works better against these other two legends that have shown up in the fray as the kind of third pick choices in Fuse and Catalyst over some of the more niche picks that we've seen from Watson. Still a few in the lobby here, though TSM have swapped, as we get a top-down overview of Skyhook, people making their positions and getting that zip line back in the ALGS. You gotta love it.
Yeah, I like what Hodzik touched upon, that no one's really going to complain about Pathfinder being back in the meta, because Pathfinder is just such an enjoyable character to play and to watch, and adds that extra dynamic to Apex Legends. Now, the next zone is about to be on our screen as round 1 does close, and I think it's evidently going to end up in Skyhook. I don't think there's going to be anything that is too crazy here with how it shifts, and I am correct. It is going to carry on transitioning towards Skyhook. So nothing that's going to benefit those teams arriving late. Maybe you hope for a irrational zone pull, but not going to be the case today. Disguised are going to have to move all the way around on the west side, but as you can see, plenty of playable space still within the west of Skyhook. Now, we have seen zones finish around that kind of middle cake building that I like to call, what that Mark likes to call it, and always makes me hungry. And you can see a few teams have already positioned themselves on that height, hoping that the zone does continue to pull that way.
Stallions and Fluffy Aimers on that late rotation south, disguised as well. I actually kind of like this position too. They could wrap west, and they have NG&L. They know they want to clear out anybody who's going to try to follow them on that pathway. But Skyhook still plenty of buildings to play. Final buildings, though, not so much. I just like teams in a position where you even look at TSM, you look at EEC, they just don't have anybody at their back. I think that's the best thing you could do in this type of clustered, crowded northern zone where people have played 1,000 times in the ALGS. It's one of the most consistent zones that we see in all of our match days. So having at least just nobody to worry about behind you can give you a little bit of confidence moving in. A team that's had tons of confidence, willing to take any fight, well, it's been EEC. They've been spoiler native. To TSM, to complexity, and of course, they're looking to do it to anybody who's in front of them as well.
Well, EEC are going to have to win today if they want to find themselves in regional finals. And being in 16th position, it's looking less and less likely the further we get into our match days. But being in that position kind of means it's a screw it attitude of a fearless approach to taking engagements as well, where if you believe that maybe your time is up and you're not going to make regionals, suddenly sometimes some of those decisions, they become a little bit riskier and a little bit more irrational. So we'll have to see how Eternal want to play this one. It looks like they don't want to take the fight against Flat, so there's still some belief that there is life in this one at the moment. They are currently, what, 30-ish points, 36 points away from first place, so a lot still to do. Now, Complexity, they've just taken out Native Gaming, and that is a big loss for Native Gaming. Remember, they are still searching for a regional spot, and that has suddenly taken a big hit going out in 20th position.
It hasn't been a great split for Native. It's not been a terrible split, but averaging scoring in the bottom 10 almost every single game except that 8th place performance that they had, I believe, in match day number 4. It was round 2 when B and C showed up against each other. Something they're going to try to get better at here. Obviously, going down now, leaves only 2 games left to make that big jump. We'll see if it can. But sometimes the work's already kind of been done heading into this. It is that last-ditch effort, that last day for a miracle. But at the end of the day, you're kind of hoping for that miracle. And if that hasn't proven to come fast and often for you, well, maybe it just will not come. Happy to see the stories develop, though. Always love it. Liquid Alienware, Yanya Jaguares, and Neozol holding one of these buildings. Stallions as well, still on the southern side of this map. Now on the opposite south side. And staring at Liquid Alienware as well. EEC to their right.
Stallions, who also in a similar position to the likes of DSG, they're down in 26th position, so they would need probably a top 4 today to give themselves a chance of getting into regional finals, and they're in 17th spot, so we're going to need to see a big few games from them on World's Edge if they will find themselves at regionals. And you know, names like the guys that are on Stallions, like Retzi, like Albertelli, that we have seen around, you just want to see them succeed. You expect to see them succeed, but this goes back to our point that there are so many big names that are not even going to make LAN, but also may not even make regional finals, and that's how competitive this region is.
That's what makes it so impressive for the teams who do stay consistent at the top in those top 10 moments, those top 5 moments. It's just a big shout out as well. A team we highlighted and is coming in now with new representation. Bleed Esports with Dropped and joining Noct and Shubi. Well, they've been a team that's pretty much averaged a 6th or 7th placement. They want to continue that as well. But Stallions, like you mentioned, Dan, in a situation like this, I think game 4 is so important, not just because of the points you make, but the points you take away from opponents. Once you're in a situation where game 4, you get into that top 6, something like that, you believe game 5 and 6, you got enough time. If you start game 5 needing it to start happening for you, it feels very, very late, I'm sure, in their eyes, for it to go. And Disguise right here, oh, it's going to be difficult trying to get in with Disguise holding him around.
Disguised are going to need even more points, right? They're going to need a top 3, if not a top 2 today, if they would like to qualify for regional finals. And now 8th position, not so bad. They do find themselves about 26 points behind first place TSM, so it's not unachievable at the moment. I think that gap, if it can be closed here in match 4, and you start to believe there's still an opportunity to get to regional finals. But there's a lot of teams on this south side that are going to struggle because you're going to be held out. You either try and go through Vault Tunnel, and there's already a team residing there, or you try and transition to the eastern side, and there's going to be squads to hold you out. So either way, it's not going to be an enjoyable experience. You can try and go all the way around to the west if you would like, and maybe Disguise will have to try and make that play.
It feels like they have to. Flat will follow along with, for now, from the very northern side, but there's a team waiting for him, and it's LG on the back end. They might just be distracted, though. Retzi, Albertelli, and Ram from Stallions will find just a little bit of patience. Plays an impact, but they will have to get the job done here. Silence as well. Seer will have his Q when he gets back up, but he's got 8 seconds of not being able to use that or the exhibit. Tough thing to use in a hallway like this, but the exhibit goes up there. So all the resources they've dealt with, and a Dark Veil. This is a massive moment. In fact, Stallions can kind of slow play this. They are in the zone right now. They don't have to push yet, but you can tell they are not going to be met with anything but immense resistance from NGNL Esports.
Elsewhere, Disguised, they took to the skies with an evac tower, dove into Skyhook, and then sadly lost 2 members. So not looking very good for Disguised at the moment as Stallions continuing to push through this vault area. NGNL on the other side. Not too much damage has been done by either side yet, so no one committing to this fight. And of course, NGNL, the team that can wait this one out if they would like, but they need to be thinking about what they do next. If they win this fight, where do they go? Because the zone has shifted a little bit further east, which isn't going to be as easy for them to transition to.
Gotta go in. They get the silence as well. They know no abilities can be used. This is the moment, the opportunity, the chance. Alberlelli's got to clutch up here if they want to make it. And NGNL Esports goes down. Stallions ride through that fight, and they live another day. Alberlelli with some huge clutch play there. Retzi getting aggressive too, and it works out for them to stay alive.
Well, TSM back up to a 4-3 as well, able to rescue Zap from the heavens. And TSM, who are in first place at the moment, they held the northern side by the train tracks, but then they saw the zone shift east, and they were probably kicking themselves a little bit, saying, all right, well, this isn't going to be the easiest rotation for us, because now they have to move alongside those tracks, and they're already going to be teams inside the buildings that they start to approach. So they're going to have to fight their way in here, or try and climb on top and maybe take some space, but not going to be fun either way for whichever decision TSM do decide to make, because it's going to be Bleed Esports who are going to be one of the squads holding them up.
I mean, one of the hardest things about this right now is figuring out if Flat, because they lost a few members, is still a solo or a trio. Moist, though, they have been on fire. They took down that first game with a wonderful 1v1 with Timmy. They're flying in now to see if they can do it again in game 4.
I got scanned.
I'm scanning. Look for this. I scan too.
Detonating. Play in the corner.
I'm good.
Playing in the corner. Yeah,
I'm back to the corner. Yeah, I'm going back to the corner.
They're swinging. I'm batting. Look for me.
Looking.
I'm holding.
I'm dropping.
Bang.
I'm
30.
Drop to me. Drop. Get in. Dead.
Oh my goodness, chaos incarnate with all the exhibits going on. You would have thought you were at the Louvre, Dan, but finally, Not Moist go down after a valiant attempt at the top side. Just with Blues weren't able to withstand the damage.
Yeah, we lost a few teams there. Flat also went down as they were trying to hold up. TSM have managed to survive on the north. Furia down to a 2 on the south. It's Vanity on the other side of this fight. Empire also watching over it, but Furia might be able to get back up to a 4-3 as Complexity also will fall on their rotation, but Furia do not get the opportunity now. It is going to be a heavy push, but Vanity, they tried to test Furia, and Furia had the response, and now Furia should be able to get back up to a 2, but you could see that seer scan just temporarily delays it, but they did sadly lose their third, so it's just going to be Keon and Vaxlon trying to work their way through this zone as a duo now.
Will be a tough mobile respawn beacon. We'll see if they can get their third back up, but as you can see, not for many med kits there on the side of TSM. Maybe a syringe was popped, but you could tell that they are bleeding a little bit. Speaking of bleed, Esports, they're on top, 6th place again. We know they're comfortable with that position. Let's go over to EEC though and follow along with what they're doing on the top of the sniper tower. You know how dangerous they could be, but they're fighting an even more dangerous team potentially in Liquid Alienware. Seer comes up with the silence. January goes back up to get with the squad, and EEC stay alive, and they look to finish off Yanya.
All the meanwhile, by the way, TSM have been able to skirt around the north, and as long as they can win this engagement against Bleed, they could potentially be in one of the better spots. But Bleed are using that cat wall. The Dark Veil comes down so they can get the cover and not be shot by other people, but it seems like there's so many squads looking at them right now. Bleed moved to try and contest TSM on the north, but it looks like it might not pay off here.
TSM, Liquid Alienware, Bleed, Empire Gaming, they all fall down. All the soldiers' men. And now LG looking to find a way to win this battle, if not the war, for the game. We told you they sometimes like to heat up at the end. And World's Edge with a Sky West pick at Skyhook with a zone that favored them. They could just be LG's moment. So far, though, Temper goes down to Stay Naughty, finding damage with the Havoc and the Hemlock just like that, and gets his level 3 perk at the end. He may not need it though, because he's still got EEC and LG to go through.
And what a contrast it is from LG, from early exits on Storm Point with a bad POI to the best POI here on World's Edge and making it count. Now it's a 3 versus 3 against Cloud9. LG do have the north, but the zone is going to pull them a little bit further south. Arguably, Cloud9 have lack of cover here, and LG can spread themselves out and try and create a pinch. This is going to be a difficult one to get out of for C9.
That's a see you later. Good night, sweet dreams. LG Funk and Sykes saw that it was just a seer scan, saying, you got 2 up going against us? Oh, no problem at all. LG happy to swing and happy to swing for the fences. Home run and a game 1 here in game 4 on World's Edge.
Never count out LG, and also never count them out, especially when they have the best POI when it comes to World's Edge. But of course, yes, it was Skyhook is where the zone ended up, but it was further east. They still had to work from Skyhook West. Of course, you get the loot from Trials. You are going to be in a better position armor-wise and having gold helmet, gold res, for example. But then they were able to position themselves as that zone continued to shift, and they were getting kills on their way. So an excellent played game by LG here. Also, you got to give credit to some of the other squads that were able to get to that late game. TSM, for example, getting zapped back up to a full 3 and still finding their way towards the end game on the northern side. But a few teams who struggled in the early stages are going to be a little bit annoyed with that match 4, and they're going to have a lot to do in match 5 and 6.
Absolutely is what I mean. This is one of those tough games where, like we have seen, the pace has been set now. And LG, they are the ones who set it for the teams who were not doing well starting off in Storm Point. And so it's a lot of points that went their way, a lot of points that you could see teams that would have liked to get who are looking to just qualify heading into it. Native comes to mind as well. DSG looking to get some stuff done. And so as Not Moist continue to be effective, impressive, finding kills, not too worried about them at this point, but the teams who really needed those miracle runs, those games, it is looking like it is going to be a difficult game 5 and game 6. Stallions as well, somebody that we had talked about there, Dan, just a little bit. I like LG, but this is the thing about LG that I continue to try to figure out with them, why it sometimes takes a second for it to click, because it is something we mentioned. They like to kind of ramp up late game. It puts them in this position where they've got to do a lot and very little. But man, can you count out Sweets? Can you count out Funk? And of course, Sykes just makes this team so good and deadly. Any moment they could pop off.
I mean, back in the day, yeah, we'd be like, LG, surely they're going to do something in the second half here with these games and in the late game. But I think today is a different matter. We knew, surely, that it was going to be tough for them on Storm Point. Having the last pick, 40th pick on Storm Point, but the first pick on World's Edge, they were going to be relying on points here at World's Edge. The good news for LG is that there wasn't too many point sponges on Storm Point. So they instantly send themselves up into the upper half of the leaderboard with a victory here, especially a 23-point game. And now they can start to strive towards getting towards that top 3 and then securing land for themselves as well.
6th place, 4th place, 4th place, a 1st place, and then where it all went wrong is 16th place. That happened in A versus B when they played their first game of round 3. So LG, no stranger to being successful, but a bit of what you could say, just a match day slump, trying to get it back in there. It's a good way to start it off on World's Edge with the best pick as well. Native Gaming, NGNL, Esports Disguised, and Flat all register 0 points in this one. Stallions just 3 ahead as Not Moist pick up a couple. Fluffy Aimers as well with Tree, and Complexity add 4 more to the total, who's a team that has been leading our lobby for most of this time. Heading over to LG stats, Dan, Sweet, Funk, Sykes, all contributing a total of 11 kills for the squad in game 4.
Yeah, a team that is a real threat in this lobby, especially now arriving at Skyhook West and being able to just loot up, having more access to weapons, to armor, to utility. It's something that they didn't have throughout Storm Point. And sure, it was some tough zones for them throughout Storm Point, but I think when you don't have the attachments, when you don't have the ability to get like the gold helmet, for example, it makes such a difference. And I think that LG will be delighted that they put a win on the board to say, look, okay, we are still in this. They pushed themselves up into the top 10, and now they can start to think about trying to push themselves even further.
Yeah, I'll tell you one thing, the standard for LG is we should be at LAN. We should be guaranteeing our spot, and we wouldn't want to have to worry about regional finals to do so. And so far, if they keep this up, that will be the case. Certainly another big win will jump them up into 2nd or even 1st place, but right now that belongs to TSM. They did a good job rotating north all the way from Climatizer, finding a way to stay out of the fray when all that chaos happened. They didn't get a ton of kills, but they certainly put themselves in a position to stay ahead of their competition, taking those placement points away from them and really stopping a major swing. Speaking of what is coming up, though, in terms of majors, well, we've got our Split 2 playoffs in Mannheim, Germany, August 29th to September 1st. Tickets will soon be available, but if you're just finding out about that information, here's a little video to get you excited. Battle Beaver is the official controller partner of the Apex Legends Global Series.
Welcome back once again, everybody, to the ALGS, and it seems like LG's alarms was set a little bit later than maybe they would have expected, but at least they have gone off. They win the game on World's Edge here and finally reintroduce themselves to the lobby. A very, very impressive win coming in from LG in that previous game, Dan, and I think LG fans will be smiling a little bit more than they were previously.
Yeah, I think LG fans would have been eagerly anticipating the arrival of World's Edge and just getting off of Stormpoint and a coastal camp drop, which is not necessarily the most ideal. But I think the fact that LG have been able to capitalize off of their first pick here on World's Edge just demonstrates how good a team they are, right? How many times have we seen teams up at Skyhook but not being able to find that victory when the zone comes their way? And LG, it wasn't like it came Skyhook West. They still had to transition to the east of Skyhook. They made it count. They get the W, and they get a decent amount of kills alongside it.
Yeah, very, very impressive stuff from LG, especially in the final moments as well. Really important CQ actually comes through, which I hope we'll see on this replay as well, just to give them the indication that C9 hadn't been able to fully reset, that they were kind of half sticking a res, and from that they would have known that one of those players would have been weak at least, and then they made the play off the back of it. It was C9 who managed to clean up a few kills on this side of a zone as well, though, to give them a few extra points and get that reset, which is so, so important. And C9 with an important performance as well. And there it is, that CQ coming through from Sykes on the Seer, and then you see Funk as well using that knuckle cluster just to make sure that any extra damage that can be done will be done before they even have to pull the trigger on those guns. So LG will be the champions here of game number 4, and it sets us up now for game number 5. And look at the names that we have on our leaderboards there. Not Moist, game number 1 winner. Complexity, game 2. TSM, and now LG. The question is, who wants to win the next one?
Well, I'm sure there's a few teams that are down in that bottom 10 that would love to get a victory and give themselves a bigger chance of getting to regional finals. Those who still have a lot to do, the likes of Disguised, Stallions, Temper, for example, all have to try and really find a first place today. The likes of Native, they could probably get away with a top 10, a top 8, and still squeak themselves into regional finals, so it wasn't as much of a detriment that we saw them fall when they did in match number 4. But if they continue to fall in that fashion in matches 5 and 6, they will slowly start to slip away from getting to regional finals. So Native could do with a top 5 performance here just to try and solidify a good amount of points and keep them within that top 10.
And just a reminder, you can watch on Face It Watch as well, the official multi-view streaming platform for the ALGS. If you want to watch your favorite teams, you can watch up to 14 POVs with the comms as well. So head over to fce.gg/watch ALGS. And of course, bring up that map feed to see where your favorite team is rotating, and maybe someone that you're praying on the downfall as well. Just keep an eye on them as well. Just see what they're doing, see if they're getting pinched, and hopefully you can celebrate that as well. But as we head into game number 5, Dan, like you say, there's a few teams who are still trying to force their way into those regional final spots. There's a few teams who are probably looking to solidify some of those land positions as well. And World's Edge is something that we've seen a lot of, and LG feeling very, very comfortable with this drop, with the POI draft. And I think you summed it up so beautifully well, right? It's a Skyhook zone. It's a tough zone still to rotate through for them, but making the most of the POI is something that's so important if you have it.
Yeah, when you start to see people all arriving at Skyhook, it can worry you a little bit, and you're like, are we actually going to be looted enough? But I think having trials is always going to be very important because of what you gain from doing trials, from the Evo shields you're able to gain, and also the extra accessories you can have, the gold helmet, the knockdown shield, for example, that can really make a difference going into that late game. So we'll have to see whether LG now, as they have to transition a little bit further outside of their POI, how they will do. Because sometimes moving away from Skyhook isn't a bad thing if you're a Skyhook West team. It was Dark Zero who really pioneered the way to play trials, and the success they found, and it might have been their fault why we ended up with a POI draft, to be honest, because they just started dominating World's Edge back in the day. But zone-wise, we are going to be heading away from Skyhook this time, so it's not going to be as comfortable for LG in terms of how far they have to go, but it isn't as far as a southeast zone, for example. Instead, we're going to be heading just on the west side.
Interesting to see if this one pulls towards Mirage or if it goes a little bit further towards Landslide. Maybe the track's just outside, sort of right in the center of that zone. It's one that zone information is going to be important for, but I'm kind of interested to see how Furia play, because they have Ring Console, they have Survey Beacon as well, and I think making an early play will be interesting for them to see what their decision is, because if they back it to be Mirage, then they're obviously going to be in a great spot, but based on the fact that, of course, they have that extreme high ground of the floating ship. But if it does pull a little bit further away, will they make a play early for it, or will they just play for the KP that they can pick up potentially from the top of Mirage?
Well, Temper had Ring Console at Countdown, and they are moving very quickly towards Mirage Etoile. So I think that says enough. If one IGL thinks it's going to be Mirage Etoile, there is always going to be that trust in me to say, okay, if someone is that heavily committed to a zone, then surely most other IGLs are going to be in similar thinking here. So we might be transitioning all the way to the west side of World's Edge. Now for Bleed Esports, 28 points. They're in 8th position at the moment. And I'm sure they would like to secure a little bit more points to give themselves just that extra buffer of ensuring they qualify for LAN and for playoffs. At the moment, they're still kind of able to be caught if they weren't to put more points on the board here and in regional finals. So a big game could really change things for them.
It's kind of a classic Bleed performance so far, isn't it, really? 8th place overall. They've kind of hovered between, I would say, 8th, 7th, 6th, 5th has kind of been their go-to. We heard from Dropped himself in the interview as well, saying that they're yet to have that banger game that they're desperate to have, where they have a win or get a 2nd place with a load of KP, and they feel very, very confident. So still a couple of games to go, of course, and things can change. But with the teams ahead of them having had those banger games, it's starting to kind of a little bit of a look at the clock and see that time is starting to run out for them to put in one of those performances. But by hitting the survey beacon, they're going to be able to get the info of not only where other teams are playing, but also they're going to be able to get themselves up to blue. And speaking of getting up to blue, Furia, they are there. They are on top of Mirage. They are set up for the long game, and this is almost a guarantee of placement points for them unless they do something crazy, which I don't see them doing.
Hit the button, start the party. That's all I want to hear. I want to hear the music start to really make a difference in the final circle. But honestly,
game changer.
It is a tough final circle Mirage Etoile because of the height difference and for the amount of playable space that is available both on the ship and under the ship as well. You have to be aware of what areas teams can play because there's all these separate rooms that are going to be available to you as well. It could shift just that little bit further south than Mirage Etoile. So then you have to work out how you get off of the ship. Are you going to be focused? Can you drop? Can you take a zip line, for example? And there is already about 6 teams that have started to move to the far west side of the map. Now you can play also on the height just south of Mirage Etoile as well. That's often a more desirable position because you can pick off a lot of teams that are arriving late. But a team that could potentially contest a squad that arrives there is Fluffy Aimers. Now, Disguise, they were down at Thermal. They moved quick. Fluffy Aimers will be following them.
Well, elsewhere, you can see inside a Countdown, there's already a fight happening, and Flat are looking to push the pace a little bit on this one. Nano has to take a few seconds to pop that battery to make sure that he isn't going to be the first to go down, and will be able to do so successfully. And now it's looking like Flat might be having a little bit of a second thought about this, if they want to actually take this fight, if it's as isolated as they want. Scan comes in. White Armor is going to say push. That's as simple as that. White Armor is the almost guaranteed go button to try and get that first knock, but they are taking so much damage still.
Yeah, this is a great hold. Good damage coming out of Blink and Reeds, although Blink's just taken a little bit too much damage as well, and now has to try and back off. The smoke will at least give the cover, but Flat just not able to get the damage that they would have wanted. I think the Watson is playing a big factor in that and stopping any grenades coming in, and I wonder whether Flat just give up on this one because it's just taking a little bit too long.
Yeah, just saw the one room there and misspoke. It's going to be Countdown. We're over at staging at the moment, so this fight is relatively isolated for now, and it looks like Flat are actually going to back away from this position and try and play for a different rotate. So the Watson fences, the Watson gen being enough to stall that fight out and slow it down. Elsewhere, things aren't slowing down here for Team Liquid. Nia's always going to have to take a little bit of time to pop a battery, and on the other side of this is going to be Stallions.
Yeah, Liquid not necessarily having any of their big games that we've seen from them previously, but perhaps this could be the start of one, but it all has to be in this initial engagement, and they've already been able to take down 2. Should be an easy cleanup, and it is, and that is so detrimental for the chances of Stallions of getting to regional finals, by the way. It puts them in a position where match 6 almost has to be a victory if they're going to get there. So Liquid Alienware crushing the dreams of Stallions.
Easy reset for them as well. Just threw the exhibit out just to make sure that nobody would push, so that nobody was in the vicinity and nobody would go essentially unscanned if they did try and move up on their position. And they are going to have essentially the entirety of the south side of the zone at the moment. They could go to Thermal Station and hit the beacon. They could hit the ring console if they wanted to as well. But I think at the moment the ring console is just going to be used for Evo purposes more than anything else, based on the fact that everyone is pretty confident on where this zone is going to be going. Eternal, we're having a little fight though over at Harvester at the moment with NGNL. As we see Empire Gaming, interesting. It does look like it may be moving away towards those tracks I was talking about. So all of a sudden, hey, look at that, Dan. It's one of those funky little shifts again.
Yeah, it could also end under the, like, complete high ground that's just to the west of the train tracks you're speaking about as well, and sometimes that can be a difficult one to navigate if you are not the team that has the high ground, and if you do get the ultimate high ground, you can really just rain down hell on everyone below. So we'll have to see if anyone tries to commit to that kind of position. But at the moment, Empire having the train tracks, they'll be pretty happy if they knew about the zone shift. But of course they don't, because they don't have any ring console information. They're just going to have to wait a little bit of time, as there's 2 Dark Veils on the map.
There's 2 Dark Veils. It's forming a cross, and we'll have to wonder if anyone's going to be buried in the next few minutes. Temper, maybe looking to push, maybe looking to get that first knock, and Adivian is going to get that first knock, so now they have an opportunity to maybe clean up a little bit of damage. Instead, they're just going to play this one slow, knowing that they got the finish. They secured the kill. They don't have to do too much. They think they're trying to split hold these buildings at the moment, but they have to be very, very careful, because there is still, of course, Furia up on height. There's a couple of teams looking across from the low ground as well. One of those is going to be bored. LG also moving on the train tracks just to their north as well, which can overlook all of this going down. And finally, Adivian is going to be able to get himself in a position to get that loot that they were so desperate for.
Temper in 11th place at the moment. They probably need to be finishing in the top 6 today if they're going to qualify for regional finals. So still a little way to go for them. They did commit to the heavy Mirage pull. They're one of the first teams to actually move there, and it is starting to shift away from them. So that's going to be a little bit annoying for them, but they weren't the only team who went that way. Although sometimes it does become a little game of sardines. When you look at the survey beacon scan and you see everyone towards Mirage Etoile, you say, oh, maybe we're joining them. Surely they know something we don't. Well, sadly, you have committed to a crime, because the crime is a zone shift away from you.
Well, Team Liquid Alienware, they are dressed in purple at the moment, and they're trying to take down Flat, who is in front of them for now. They would have got the armor checks for that damage that's coming in as well, knowing they have blue, and that's why they want to try and push this. The evac goes down, and you imagine that's going to be followed up by a ultimate coming in from Jaguares as well to give them those wall hacks, which looks exactly what the play is for them. But on the other side of this, you can see that DSG want to look, and if there's any knocks that come in on either side, then DSG have the chance for third.
Liquid Alienware at the moment, just keeping their distance. The exhibit not providing the information that maybe was expected here, and having just to back off a little bit as Flat are able to hold so much more of the space because of the exhibit they had put down. But I wonder whether Liquid Alienware waits it out and then throw an exhibit of their own just to try and counter, knowing that there's not going to be an exhibit on the other side. So quite rightly backing off, and Flat at the moment just going to have to hold their ground here and see if they can force Liquid Alienware to take a different route.
I mean, Liquid, if they do want to take a different route, are going to have to do it pretty quickly, and I think they've recognized that because of the timing on the zone, which is closing in behind them. They can't afford to stall this out, especially with DSG in the vicinity as well, who are having a little look and would have moved in and made that push through the choke even more difficult, even if they cleanly took that fight and managed to win it. TSM, looks like an evac is going to be called in for them very soon to try and get over this mountainous area and cut through towards the Harvester side, and it's a little bit blind for now. We'll have to see if they find somewhere safe to play.
Well, this is going to be a journey, all right. Eternal are kind of below them, and they might be able to get some shots off to TSM as they arrive, but TSM have been able to find a little bit of safe haven and avoid Eternal for now. But Eternal will certainly be wise to it. They did see TSM. You saw the shots come through because the bang perk got activated. But now TSM, they can have a decision here. They can still go north towards Landslide if they would like, if they feel like it's going to be too much of a difficult scenario to go from the southeast. So at least there are options. They're just scouting right now to see the lay of the land.
Well, the team who's in Godspot right now is Fluffy Aimers. They're in the Dorito building, I believe, right in the southern tip of this zone. DSG now in that fight, and it's going to be Flat who are finding out that it's not just Liquid they had to worry about. They have to worry about the Rampage, which is revved up. And we are seeing some real diversity today in some of the weapons that we're seeing being used. We're seeing charge rifles, we're seeing Rampages with thermites in it. It's almost like a throwback tournament.
Sometimes you can only play with what you are given as well. Sometimes you don't necessarily find the Havocs and the Hemlocks that you've been desiring for previous match weeks, and you have to just go with whatever is available on the floor loot. Now, Disguise, still a lot to do. I think that realistically they have to finish top 3 today if they're going to make regional finals. So a win in this game would give them that opportunity, and at least they do find themselves in a pretty good spot on the southwest. Now, a team who did find success in the previous game and they're into the top 10 is LG. let's jump in, see what the comms are like from Sweet and Co.
Can you smoke the ramp? Smoke the bridge?
Hold on.
They're coming up. They're coming up.
Get ready to fuse. Hold that. Unless
I can't. I don't have fuse, bro.
As well, I think.
He's taking the zip. No, he's just taking the zip.
they're going back here to eat.
Gonna leave.
Maybe to leave. Hold them here.
They legit have to. They legit have to.
Raj is looking at us.
Let
them. No, they're sliding down. They're sliding down. I'm batting. We need to DPS them. We need to get to here and shoot them from like the side here. I have no bangle. I'm out of it on me. I'm out of it on me. They're getting shot on the side. They're getting slammed to the side right now. Stand on me and look left.
Yeah, I'm looking.
Walking into bridge after.
They're going right. Look at the guy in the back.
I don't know if that's the close people.
They went to the they went to the truck. They went to the truck.
Get ready to third party truck. Nobody.
I don't have fuse. I don't have fuse. I have it in 30.
Yeah.
I'm getting close.
No bang up. Play on me.
I'm queuing left.
You're on my left. On our left. Not safe. That guy's close.
25 flash.
It's a climb over.
70.
One.
Dead. Play on us. We're fine here. Full safe here. Full safe here. I'm popping optics up. Can you guys look at cart?
Yeah.
Can we nuke?
Watch your right. Watch your right. Watch your right.
I got it. They're all blues in the car. I'm okay.
They have a watch engine though, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Can you smoke right? Smoke right, please. Oh, there's a team in the back. Bro.
You play on top for you.
Armors.
Look, come on. It's a full team.
Half 40. I'm running above tracks.
Have better one. Have better one. I'm done.
Shit, out so we get out.
Are they getting shot and thirded or just falling in?
They're falling. They're running right now. One's not.
One's dead.
Well, LG down to 1, but we've seen Sweet pull off some incredible rap plays. The question is this too much for him to go through? It's Furia who managed to take out the other 2 members, and Furia picking up KP after KP at the moment.
But Furia did lose 1, and Sweet was able to turn around and maybe re-engage. Now, elsewhere, Bleed Esports are on the other side of this, trying to finish off a team within this RV, whereas Furia and LG are on the other side of it. It's all going down at the moment. It is absolute mentalness that we are experiencing on this northern side, and whoever comes out on top will own those train tracks and be able to walk down to the south side.
I hate to do it to you, but that is not a word. But I get exactly what you're trying to say. LG still alive. Sweet trying to dodge and dive and do what he can just to survive and get a few more placement points. And remember, we've got 13 squads remaining now, but he's got a Pathfinder on his back. And that is going to be Keon using that grapple to chase down LG. That's going to be Sweet gone. That's going to be LG gone.
They are going to be out, sadly. Not able to bounce back off of the initial victory. Is TSM also still alive here after their journey onto the southeast side of the map, but it looks like it might be coming to an end soon.
Well, with the 2 weak players here, and one of them is behind the knockdown, that is going to be Oblivion taken out, and TSM will be able to reset here. There's nobody else anywhere near them whatsoever. So Zap, this time he was a little bit late like we saw earlier, but he was there just in time to get the final damage down before anyone got finished off. So Zap times it better this time around. Wasn't as unfortunate to take the damage, and now they can get the reset. Plus they have the gold nog, which makes that reset even quicker for them.
Zone continuing to trend south as well towards the curved area of the train track, which you mentioned it benefits the likes of Fluffy Aimers who are still alive, Native Gaming, EEC, but now Disguise trying to work their way in from the northwest. They need this game. They need to find a big amount of points here if they are going to get to regional finals.
They're going to be hit by the Q though. Designful takes a lot of damage himself on the Pathfinder. You can see him in front of the 2 players who are trying to follow up on the path that he's trying to create for them. Elsewhere, Complexity still alive just about. Empire Gaming, they're in one of the great spots as well. Monsoon still in a position to do damage, and he's not just got an L-Star, everybody. He's got a Kraber as well. We've already seen what he's done with a selection of sniper rifles today.
He's got a Kraby Wavy, baby, and we've already seen what he can do, not just today, but in previous weeks, as Keon is going to be on that ultimate high ground that I mentioned a little bit earlier, and he's going to happily reside there just to try and gain some extra placement points for Furia as the last remaining member, ratting it out. Disguise still alive on the north. Bleed Esports also doing a job here, going down the train track that I spoke of earlier, but Empire Gaming are waiting for them. They are saying, look, board this train if you want, and we'll see how it goes.
Well, the nade is going to come in, and that's going to do the damage. They have a numbers advantage here. They have an armor advantage as well. They also have Nox doing a huge amount of damage and getting the second knock as well. Empire Gaming get run over by Bleed Esports. They will take control of the train track, and they will be safe inside of the next zone as well.
Well, Disguised are now approaching from the north as well, but I think they're under the train tracks and potentially competing with Vanity, and that is going to be a big fight for Disguised that they must win, really. When you look at their chances for regional finals, it has to be a big game here, but it could be Bleed Esports from above that could ruin their day. TSM's still alive on the southeast here as well. It's Eternal in front of them. Native Gaming also alive in front of them as well, as TSM down to a 2, but we already saw they were able to survive previously.
Good damage, but no knock, and that's going to be so frustrating. It looks like they're going to play for the revive instead onto Reps. Verholz's job right now is to bang out, to hold, to stop the push coming in so they can get back up to 3. And if he can output some damage and third party himself, he's going to take that opportunity. But again, cannot get that knock. But Reps is now back on his feet.
It's so hard to make these plays within an exhibit, by the way, because of so much information being gathered by the opposition team. Reps has gone down again. Verholz really trying to take that position to fry with the Havoc, but not able to do so. Now down in a 1 versus X here to try and stay alive for its team.
Yeah, it looks like he's just going to play this one out as a solo because his Zap's gone down as well. They're both going to be finished off. He won't be able to get the res, you would imagine, in this situation. DSG now trying to move in, and DSG will deal with Vanity. So Vanity will be taken out as DSG will capitalize on some of the damage that was done. Native Gaming will fall to 7 squads now remaining. TSM still alive, Furious still alive, Eternal up on the high ground above them. Fluffy Aim is still in the God spot. Complexity, Bleed, and Disguise, your final squads.
Native Gaming putting a good amount of points on the board, but not necessarily enough to be comfortable. Speaking of comfortable, are Disguised are everything but at the moment, but it looks like they are going to be able to reset a gold res as well to be able to work with here. So Disguised get the chance to really assess what's going to go on, but no, it's not going to happen because from above, sadly, they are taken out and DSG now down to a 2.
Keon's still alive as the Pathfinder, by the way, and this is one of the things we don't talk about with Pathfinder, the ability to stay alive as a solo, to zip around, to be an absolute nuisance to the lobby. He's got into the top 5 now as he finishes off Verholz as well, but that might be the end of it here. No grapple available. He will be taken down. Fury are eliminated. We have now just the 4 squads.
This is big for Disguise, though. They're into the top 4. They pushed themselves into the overall top 6. And if they can just find that one extra step, get into the top 3, those points could be vital. And it does give them a chance going into match 6 of still making regional finals, which really would be incredible. If you consider the position they were in prior to this weekend, when it looked like they were down and looked like they were out, and now the fact that it is possible, it's in touching distance for Disguised, really we have to give them credit. But the job is not done yet. Now, Bleed Esports are going to be above them. Fluffy Aimers still hold one of the priority positions, and Complexity still in this one as well.
Vale going to go down. And that's going to be from Bleed Esports, I believe, trying to move their way and inch their way forward just a little bit. Shots coming in, but not great ones coming in from Shuby, but enough to just force that team away from the height. And now they have to play close to this wall. They know there's going to be teams that will look down upon them, but if they hear a fight take place, if they see an opportunity to move, Disguise take it out. As our 4th squad in this lobby, they will get 4th place. But if a fight breaks out, then Bleed Esports will have the opportunity to climb up and maybe do some damage. But Complexity now, they have the zone at their backs, and that's causing them problems.
Fluffy Aimers, by the way, who were outside of the regional spots before this day, are now finding themselves within the top 3 and a chance to get a big game on the board with the victory as Complexity go down. It's Fluffy Aimers versus Bleed.
They get the first knock as well, so Fluffy Aimers now in a 3v2 to win the game, to send match number 5 their way and give themselves a chance at maybe making regional finals. It's one more player to find. Find him they do. It's just a case of finishing this off. Fluffy Aimers in game number 5, our penultimate game of the day, give themselves a chance.
It may have been the game win that they needed to get to regional finals, and they called that position very early. As soon as they saw that zone shifting away from Mirage Etoile, they took the train tracks and they were able to transition further south with the zone, and they capitalized on a zone not pulling the way that some teams expected. Again, we saw a heavy commitment towards Mirage Etoile, and those who arrived late had to commit to other areas, and they were rewarded for arriving late. And that's how it goes sometimes. You can heavy commit to a zone and you can be punished for it. And sadly, for those teams who thought it was going to go into Mirage Etoile, they were indeed finding themselves in a tough situation where they couldn't get out.
Yeah, I will say Mirage Zone in general, I would say one of my least favorite because of that extremeness of the power position that Mirage is. So to see it shift away from that a little bit, personally, for me, much rather see those kind of zones with teams having access to it to fight for it and not just being the almost guaranteed top 3 for the team who is on top of Mirage. But I gotta say, Fluffy Aimers, man, like, you're looking at those teams who are desperate to get into regional finals at the moment, and that's who we're kind of focusing on, right? You've got DSG in that position. They get into the top 4 but just couldn't get over the line. But Fluffy Aimers, with that win, it's not only great for them, but it's such bad news for everyone else who's around them, who's fighting for their spot, because it just means that those points are taken away, not just by anyone else in the lobby, but the one team who you are competing with to to make it through to regional final. So a massive performance from them, and they still have one game to go here.
Yeah, for teams like Oxygen and UCX, who played yesterday and put themselves on a total to try and do enough and set that benchmark, they are going to be very upset to see teams like Fluffy Aimers performing well, to see teams like Native Gaming putting points on the board as well, because slowly but surely that top 20 position that you had is being chunked away at, and I would be surprised if UCX qualify. Oxygen, it's also going to be very tight. They are probably going to miss out with all the teams that are finding points below them, but we will have to see how it goes when we get match 6 done and dusted. But in match 5, Disguise did give themselves a chance. They pushed themselves into the overall standings of around top 6 and still give themselves the opportunity for a top 3 finish at the end of the day.
It's going to be very, very interesting indeed to see those overall standings when the end of play finishes. Who's going to make it through to the regional finals? Who's going to be in those LAN qualification spots with one more day ahead of us, that regional final? Of course, we'll take a look at the game winner stats as well. Fluffy Aimers compared to that second place team, which is Bleed Esports. Great performance from them, by the way. I said that, you know, they've been kind of averaging out where they've been averaging out in comparison to the rest of the season. Well, that kind of performance in a game 5 maybe might make this the game week they look back on as the one that really was the one where they got the points that they needed to go to that split 2 playoffs. Elsewhere, we'll take a look at the series results to see how we stand. TSM still on top with 57 points, Furia with 47 behind, but I would say after that, Dan, it is so close.
And you can see what teams now need to do. I spoke about Disguise needing a top 3, you'd imagine, to get to regional finals. They are 14 points away from Bleed Esports. A victory in a game, a lot of kills to go alongside it. You know, it's not out of the realms of possibility. For teams like Stallions, though, who I mentioned, who need to be finding themselves up in the top 5, the top 3 as well, they are all the way down in 18th, and that suddenly looks like it's almost impossible at that point to find that amount of points. And it's going to be sad at the end of today to have to send people home or keep people at home, and they're not going to be in the regional finals because there's just so much talent in this region.
It certainly is indeed, and we're going to have to see what talent makes it through to the regional finals when we get back after this break. One more game to go, everybody. World's Edge is where we're heading. The question is, who's going to be in that top 20? Welcome back to the ALGS, everybody. Welcome back to the North American Pro League, and this is the final game of our regular season before we find out who our 20 teams will be who will compete in our regional finals coming up very soon. Dan, this is it, right? This is what we've been waiting for all split. We need to find out who these 20 teams are going to be, but before we get to the final game, let's take a look back on what happened in those final moments.
This is how you put it. It's big crunch time. The t-shirts, they sold out earlier, and now we get to see it happening again. But as we do look back at the previous highlights, what a big game it could have been for Disguise, or maybe is for Disguise, because it gives them hope. And sometimes hope is all you can ask for when you are going into a match 6, because there is still that possibility of getting into regional finals. And it is not a win that is required, for example. It could just be another top 4, and you will find yourself at regional regional finals with still a stab at playoffs. And I think that's what's important. And most importantly, in this region, there are 12 positions for playoffs. It's not like EMEA earlier, where if you kind of scrape through in 20th, it's unlikely that you'll make LAN if you just try and do it off points because of the only 8 positions that were available. With the 12 available here in this region, it means that there is still opportunities as long as you make it to regionals.
Well, here's your winners of the games so far. Not Moist Complexity, TSM, we had LG, and we've just had a Fluffy Aimers taking home game number 5, but this is one of the biggest moments of the season for a lot of these teams. It's the last chance, the last opportunity to get points on the board to qualify for the regional finals. Top 20 will go through for everybody else. Unfortunately, it's into the LCQ where you have to fight for another chance at competing this season. As we take a look across some of these POI drops where the teams are going to be dropping after the POI draft, I think a lot of teams are going to be praying for a zone to go their way down. This is the big one.
This is the big one indeed, and we're going to be looking at teams like Native Gaming, like Temper, who are trying to chase everything at the moment, like Disguised, who it looked like it was going to be near impossible back a couple of match days ago for them to achieve regional finals. Can they get it done? The likes of Not Moist should have done enough already. Fluffy Aimers may have done enough with that victory as well. So it's those who are still outside of the top 20 with a little bit further to go. The magic number that we were kind of working around was about 49 points. As it stands, Fluffy Aimers are exactly on 49 points. So if it ended right now, they would be good. But, of course, there is still another match to play, and there are still other teams that could potentially take that regional spot away from you.
And if Fluffy Aimers don't make it on 49 points, then we get to fire the stat sky. Let's see how this game goes then. For all of these teams, like we say, it's the last game of the regular season before we head to the regional finals. So enjoy it, everybody. If you've got your favorite team who you're supporting, if you're watching them wherever it is on Face It Watch or here on the more main broadcast or maybe somewhere else as well, if you're watching Wiggle Greek, shout out to them. Or give your team all the energy that you certainly can. Fluffy Aimers, the winners of Game 5, have given themselves the opportunity to make regional finals.
Yeah, they just need a pretty average game here. They just need enough points to get over the finish line, but you've got to be worried about those below you potentially taking that spot away from you as well. So you don't want to just limp out with an average like 17th, for example. You want to be getting some placement points on the board. You need to do something to try and push yourself that little bit further. Sure, you might get some kills, which gets you 3 on the board, but those placement points are sometimes so desirable to get into that top 10, just so you have more to work with alongside those kills. Now, zone-wise, we're heading south east. So this is good news for the likes of Flat, who are going to be dropping over towards Siphon. Not the worst news for the likes of NGNL over towards Geyser and surrounding areas. And of course, Valenti and Liquid Alienware down in that southeast as well.
Yeah, trying to see if NGNL, they don't have a ring console over at Geyser, so they're not going to have the info. Flat do have a ring console at Siphon though, so it's looking like a North Siphon zone potentially, maybe one that we do see the shift towards Grandma's house a little bit up on the hill as well. Also, they do sometimes see the little funky one that goes to the other side of the mountain range towards Fragment, although it looks like it's a little bit too far out of that one, but I've been proven wrong so many times recently that at this point, it wouldn't surprise me whatsoever. So I think North Siphon is going to be a great place to play. The Hill House, of course, is going to be a fantastic spot to hold, and Empire going straight for it.
Yeah, Empire moving very quickly, as we have seen them do so far already in this tournament, or in this match day, should I say. Vanity also moving quick. Of course, Flat did as well. Fluffy Aimers now arriving from the south. Everyone's starting to head to very similar areas. And this isn't going to be the best of news for those who can't get those priority positions, especially those who are desperately searching for points. For example, the likes of Disguised over towards Thermal Station. It's a little bit of a journey to the southeast here, all the way from the southwest. So quite a lot to do. So not only if they make it would it be impressive from where they were 2 match days ago, but also just from the positioning here in this game.
Well, you know, I kind of jokingly used to call Dark Zero the match point specialists, and I think one thing that you can say about DSG historically is they are Game 6 specialists. They have pulled out some of the biggest performances of their career in Game 6s when everybody has kind of counted them out, right? And this is another opportunity for them to kind of relive that story a little bit, to get into that regional finals, to give themselves a chance at making it to that split 2 playoffs, because first thing they've got to do is get to regional finals, right? And then you've got to put in the performance of a lifetime, but you can't even think about that if you're not part of that tournament. So They know what they have to do, and you have to remember as well, DSG, they like playing edge. They like playing from edge. It's not like not having good prio to a zone is a bad thing for them. They can take their time now. They can go and hit all the beacons that they need to get those evos up, and then they can do what they do best, and that's just fight.
Sometimes fighting is only what you can do with certain positions you'll put yourself in as well, and those fights could really change how things go as you look towards the results and as you look to the series standings, because it might come down to just one team fight for some of these squads for getting into regional finals. You might not need a victory, but if it's the difference between, I don't know, top 6 and a top 5, and it's one straight 3v3, being good at fighting could be that difference maker you so desperately desire. But it's going to be a very long and treacherous journey for Disguised, and I'm sure we'll check in with it later, as Temper, who I also mentioned, still have a little bit to do if they want to make regional finals. It's still not impossible for them, but down in 14th, they're going to need something close to a top 3 here if they want to try and get close to regional finals as well.
Well, taking out RKN is going to be good for them as well. Native, who needed points to make regional finals, they're going to have a little bit of struggle here in game 6, and they're going to have to maybe play for a respawn, which is going to slow down their rotator team, who historically, of course, love to play about as hard an edge playstyle as you could possibly imagine. Love to get into zone, love to hold it down, and they're certainly not going to be able to play that way in this game whatsoever. Elsewhere, just looking at what Fury are doing, they're in North Siphon, or sort of say Middle Siphon at the moment, and they've been very, very impressive today. But one thing to note about the pace of this game, Dan, everybody is trying so hard to get into zone as quickly as possible. Rambo is going to stick that res, by the way, and it looks like they're actually going to go and have another look at this tempo, and maybe they're just going to farm the respawns.
This is not good news for Native. Native need probably a top 10 here if they are going to find themselves in regional finals, and if they go down again, it starts to get a little bit dicey. They're currently in 15th position, and they've just been eliminated, and that might just be all she wrote for Native Gaming and their chances of getting to regional finals there. I don't think they've done enough.
Well, they'll have to prey on some downfalls. Elsewhere, we look over at Big Mord, and we're going to see Team Liquid Alienware having a little poke against Stallions. Stallions, who we mentioned earlier, probably aren't going to be making it through to the regional finals after their performance today. Team Liquid certainly will be there, and Team Liquid looking like they're going to be one of the teams who's going to be qualifying for Split 2 playoffs as well, pretty comfortably. The Stallions trying to give them a little bit of a run for their money here in this game number 6. A couple of Sky nades going in. You're always hoping you're going to see big numbers drop as soon as those ones hit the floor, and Arbolelli certainly is throwing them all out.
Well, here comes the EEC. We said at the start of the day that, you know, it would have been a tall order for them to get into first place to try and qualify for regional finals, and it's, I think, impossible now at this point, because they would have to win this match day with the amount of points TSM have got, but they can still certainly influence the lobby with some of the fights that they are taking. They've taken a lot of damage and now going into zone here, so EEC do have to be a little bit careful with this fight they're trying to take.
Decent damage coming in from January, but unfortunately he forgot the Team Liquid in the vicinity, and this is one of those situations where Stallions get pinched by Eternal, and they're like, why are you fighting us right now? Why are you full sending it? Liquid are here as well, and then Eternal are finding out right now that, oh, Liquid are here as well, and they are going to be taken out very, very comfortably. And here comes the fourth party now, but interesting to see if the NGNL can take advantage of the damage that's been done onto Team Liquid.
It's the sad reality for Stallions that it didn't really matter as much for EEC, as their likelihood of getting to regional finals was close to 0%, whereas for Stallions, that ruins their opportunity of getting to regional finals as well. Even though it probably would have had to be a win for them, it does mean that it will be the end for Stallions, unlikely to be in regional finals. Now, NGNL, 20th position at the moment. Looking pretty rough for them. They were in 18th. They were in one of these top 20 positions here on set, but being in last place means you get no points, means that everyone below you has the chance to jump above you, and I wouldn't be surprised if NGNL get pushed out of these top 20 points if they cannot find something here in this match 6.
Well, Yanya's the last player alive here for Liquid, and it's looking like, oh, he might have a little bit of a struggle, but this is Yanya we're talking about, and all of a sudden, a 3v1 becomes a none versus 2, as Team Liquid Alienware will be eliminated, but their work certainly has been already done today, and NGNL will be able to reset as the fourth party to that fight over at Big Mord. And the good news for them is there's no one else near them, because I think everybody else thought there's too many kills going down over at Mord. We don't really want to get involved with this.
NGNL can find about, 12 points in this game, and there's still the chance they'll be at regional finals, and it's certainly still in their hands as well. Even though they're in last place at the moment, they got so many points in the previous weeks that they can still believe it, and there's still a lot to do. Temper also a lot to do in this one. There are still teams, quite a lot of teams here on set, that a victory in this last game would send them into regional finals, and I think that's what's kind of crazy about this region.
Well, for now, Temper are going to be playing inside the Dorito. They've got the Catalyst as well, so they're going to be able to reinforce some doors. They're going to be feeling pretty comfortable. Complexity are going to be next to them in the bar building. Elsewhere, TSM, well, they're playing in the Geyser building at the moment. And I'm pretty sure that they managed to get one knock. And let me tell you, Reps is sending out all of the artillery that he possibly can. Getting flesh damage. He gets the first knock as well, or another knock, I should say, onto knocked. It is going to be the first one. Last two players alive are going to be upstairs. Zap's going to be careful here. It takes a little bit of damage from that grenade. They don't need to force it here, TSM. CQ could have come through as well, which is just going to delay for a few more seconds. But that little swing, that damage from Reps, now surely that's the signal to go.
This could be great news, though, with Dropped going down, with Knocked going down, with Bleed Esports falling. When we talk about Disguised and we talk about their chances of getting to regional finals, with the third place team falling there, and potentially TSM here as well, it still lines up. It's like everything is aligning. The stars, the planets are all aligning for Disguised and their chances of getting to regional finals right now.
I mean, I called them game success specialists. If they win this, if they win this game and manage to get to regional finals, well, there's some sort of voodoo stuff going on, because they are really, really leaving it late and trying to leave it later and later every single time. If they make it to land, by the way, then I mean, I'm setting fire to some sage and clearing the bad energy out of the room, because there's going to be some crazy stuff going around. But elsewhere, you can see just outside of the bar building where Complexity find themselves, and Temper were associated next to them. It's going to be Not Moist, who are in a fantastic spot, and I really like this spot as well for this kind of mid-game. 15 squads still remaining. They can look down on any teams, and there's a great opportunity for them to see third-party opportunities that present themselves to take one of these buildings a little bit later.
And whilst Not Moist would have done enough already to get to regional finals, of course, they will want to try and elevate themselves in the leaderboards to get closer to those land positions when it does get to regional finals, giving them less to do as TSM get back up to a full 3 as well, as they look to try and win this entire match day and try and solidify themselves as one of the top teams going into regional finals if they weren't already. But now there are a few teams within this next zone who are going to be able to comfortably reside. However, it's going to be less comfortable for those on the outside of things. Disguised, for example, they have to move in from the south, but they do have a lot of playable space to work with, and I'm interested to see where they go here. They could potentially go for a long old rotate all the way around to the east if they would like, and you can see they have the ring console to work with, so they are able to get that information that they were so desperately looking for, but it is an all or nothing here for Disguise. They need to get into the top 3 if they want to get to regional finals. So this rotation is everything.
Well, it looks like for now, they're going to be playing the low ground and kind of trying to navigate their way towards the train tracks. Maybe they saw that NGNL were a fight that they could isolate. Maybe they're just playing for the Evo, or the assault bin that's going to be near them as well. TSM, they're not going to be playing for anything aggressive right now, as they're just trying to walk up and get a little bit of information on if anyone is playing this choke in front of them. The answer is no. So they'll be able to walk up, but I wonder if they're thinking about wrapping for the position that Not Moist were in a few moments ago.
You can certainly see the pings coming out. The conversation that TSM are having, you can just see it visually with said pings. But they are going to have to compete with Not Moist, as you said, and just below them is going to be Empire, so if TSM back out of this one, it will be themselves getting pushed by another squad. Now, with the zone closing, everyone is going to have to move in, including the likes of Disguise, the likes of NGNL, teams who need to find points if they want to get into regional finals here, but Not Moist looking to hold out TSM.
Yeah, they've got the evac down as well, which means they can combine it, of course, with the Fuse ultimate. They're going to get all the wall hacks in the world, and TSM just have to force this now. TSM made the play to try and push Moist, to try and catch him off guard, but Not Moist, they are too experienced for that kind of play from TSM, and that will be the end of their day. So Not Moist managed to pick up some KP. 14 squads now remaining as we jump back over to DSG.
DSG have lost enemy.
Enemy's gone.
There is still opportunity as a 2. They're in top 7 at the moment, and we did see what they were able to do in the previous game. And maybe, just maybe, they can win this engagement against Empire and get enemy back on his feet.
I mean, they need to go and get the banner. That's the problem, right? And I mean, they do have the zip down, and they do have design on the Pathfinder, so the ability to get in and out is certainly there for them, but Taking a little bit of damage from nades up on that high ground. The team that's going to be above them is Empire Gaming as well, but they're not going to push. They're not going to give up this spot, you would imagine. Too strong a spot for them to hold for this endgame. But they do, of course, want to deal with DSG. They don't want them walking up this ramp. They don't want them walking under them. DSG have got some decisions to make here. Do we try and go for that banner there? It looks like they are going to try and maybe overextend for it. Did they get it? Do they have a res beacon as well? And if not, it might just be as a 2. They have to try and finish this ridiculous story they're writing for themselves.
Yeah, it's looking quite bleak for Disguise at the moment, and their backs are both literally and figuratively against the wall right now, with Empire above them. Elsewhere, Furia, second place, looking to try and catch up the likes of SSG, and a second place would do that here today, as they go into regional finals, potentially as the second highest team, and of course TSM will be up there in that conversation as well. But here is Disguise, and here is their journey, and here is the last stand.
I mean, the most recent pickup here, Qzia. Designful gone, enemy gone, and is this the final, like you say, moment for them to try and survive? Qzia's going to hit the zip. He's going to be able to get up and away, but it looks like he's been spotted out as well. For DSG fans, unfortunately, this looks like it could be the end of the road, and it will be. DSG eliminated, and that might be the end of their season.
Yeah, top 7, so they would have secured a good amount of points, 13 points, which puts them on 44. The big question is, will that be enough? And we'll have to find out right at the end, but I worry it may not be, with all the teams around them, like Fluffy Aimers, for example, getting points, but now they might be going down in this game because they are getting pushed very heavily here. And although they've done a lot of damage, they will also fall. So now NGNL, a team who I said needed points, they were in dead last. If they can get into the top 15 here in this game, there is still hope for NGNL to get into regional finals.
Back to the action where this zone is going to be pulling. Not Moist are going to have to at some point leave and slide down to one of these buildings, and that's the difficulty for them, right? Because Board, they are going to hold them out for as long as possible, but they will have to move as well. Cloud9 and Flat are coexisting in and around the building just to the south that you can see. Not Moist are putting pressure on at the moment. Complexity will have to move as well from the bar. Temper will also have to move. LG now make their play towards the bridge as well, and LG is still alive here. They just got a knock, and LG's rotating. Impressive performance on World's Edge. Looks like it might continue here. Not Moist have got to send this. NGNL eliminated in the meantime.
NGNL eliminated. That could be detrimental for their chances of getting to regional finals. It's going to be heartbreak for some of these teams because it's going to be so close at this top 20 mark, but Not Moist looking to try and not only consider themselves a regional finals team, but they want to get closer to playoffs. They could still win this match day if they find a victory in this last game. At the moment, they're into the top 9 and they are getting aggressive on the Hill House.
Yeah, they want these KPs. That's what they have to play for here. They have to kill this team as quickly as possible and then look for another third-party opportunity. But the longer this is stalled out, the longer and the smaller the hopes become for them of being able to play towards this endgame. Not much keep doing so much damage, but they just cannot get these knocks.
No knocks coming in, a lot of ticks of damage as you mentioned, but sadly they can't press on it as well. The Catalyst doing the job, holding the door and being able to restrict the chances of Not Moist getting aggressive, so they reconsider and they actually reevaluate where they're going to be pushing here, and they instead just take a position center zone.
Catwall's going to go down. You can see Timmy is taking a lot of damage. He's also on the wall hacks as well, and he looks like he will be going down, so he's going to have to... Oh no, is he still alive? He's managed to get that med kit off by the looks of things. Not Moist playing the outside of this building. 45 points to their name, in 4th place overall at the moment. And with 8 squads remaining, Walter's got to be so careful here, and they're just so exposed from so many different angles.
Teams like Tempest, teams like Board are still alive, teams who really need points to get into regional finals, but a team like Not Moist can really make a statement if they were to find a victory here today, but it's Cloud9 who are above them. Flat are just on the other side. Board get eliminated as well. Remember, they were in the top 20 here. Have they done enough to get to regional finals? It will depend what happens around them. Teams like Temper could really change the fortunes of Board's chances of qualifying for regional finals as well.
But somehow Not Moist managed to force themselves into the bottom of this building, and now they will control at least 1 floor. So while everyone else has to fight, they can just bide their time, get healthy, reset a little bit. Temper are trying to look at them as well. Elsewhere down on the low ground, LG, who already have 1 win here on World's Edge, just avoiding all of the lines of sight and using that cover that's provided by the bridge. Temper now make their move onto Not Moist. This is a big moment in this game, and the big spray coming in from Waltzy.
Massive shots, and it's Temper that are going down, and Temper who potentially going out. How are their chances going to be for regional finals? But for Not Moist, they are so strong and healthy right now with all of these red evos to work with, and they find themselves in such a good position. The way they are working together, the chemistry is on point. What a change it has been for Moist. Adding Timmy to this roster, they now push themselves up into second place. They are chasing TSM.
And you have to remember as well, it's not just the addition of Timmy. Waltzy taking over as the IGL is making some great decisions for them in this match day, and especially when the pressure is at its highest in this final game for them. Not Moist doing such an incredible job to force their way into this building. Pick up the kills around it, command the space as well, as the zone now starts to close.
Nail-biting moments, not just for those who are at the top of the leaderboards, but also those who are around 20th, those who played yesterday and are watching on, eagerly awaiting to see how many points are required by those who are around them. But it is Not Moist who are in the ascendancy at the moment, trying to push up on the team that is above them, but just patiently waiting. Maybe because they're forced to, because of these Watson fences, it is such a difficult push to try and make.
Well, now they're going to send it. The damage is there. The knock is going to come in as well. Waltzy gets yet another kill as Cloud9 now will fall at the hands of Not Moist. This is a monster game from them, but the zone now is making their decisions even more difficult. It's a blind rotate out of this building into the zone. Waltzy's going to be last to go. Maybe he's going to try and pop a med kit and force himself to survive a little bit longer. Timmy goes down. 3 squads remaining as Flat will fall. Empire Gaming will fall as well, as Not Moist still are in this game.
Not Moist up into second place and chasing TSM, but I don't know if they're going to have a chance here. No, it's LG who come out on top. LG who get another victory here on World's Edge. It may have been all about Not Moist, but LG went under the radar and get another dub here on World's Edge.
Well. Not Moist just had a banger of a final game. The way they navigated that traffic was so impressive. And Waltzy, the confidence that I saw from him in some of those fights and the decisions that he was backing himself on, absolutely incredible. LG, of course, should be celebrated for taking that win, but now the conversation turns from what we just saw, Dan, to what it means, because we have to try and tally up all the totals, see what teams are going to be going through to those regional finals, and of course, not just what teams are going to regional finals, but what spots they're going to be in comparison to those LAN qualification spots as well.
Well, one thing that we do know is Not Moist, with those kills getting into second place, did overtake TSM to take first place here in the match day, which is such a huge boost for their chances of getting into playoffs as well. Remember, they were outside of regionals before today, but now they are suddenly looking like a team that can test for LAN. Rain Day, what an incredible match we just saw, and it is going to be heartbreak for some of these teams that are outside of this top 20.
Yeah, and it is heartbreak. There's no other way to describe it. North America is such a passionate region in ALGS history, and they've continued to be passionate in Split 2. But sometimes passion isn't enough, and you've got to make things happen on the day. There were some teams that just fell a little short. You saw DSG. It was heartbreak. It was close. And sometimes it hurts harder when it is one game that, if it did go your way, could decide your fate and get you into those regional finals. That chance for our extra time here at the ALGS before we take penalties. But ultimately, the story was beyond in terms of what we were looking at. The scope, so many things to follow. And Waltzy, and Not Moist, TSM and Verholz, LG winning 2 out of 3 games on World's Edge. These started to be the teams that took the narrative away. And that is always how it is, guys. We see these things happen again and again and again. You never know who's going to steal the show, but certainly we had 3 teams just jump out in front and say, this is going to be ours at least back half of the day. And we're going to do everything we can to make sure we are in regional finals. It results like this, 22 points. That is so significant. As you had mentioned, Dan, it's enough to push Not Moist ahead of TSM for the overall match day. And that's a few more points, 4 crucial points that head into your overall standings for playoffs. They will be very happy for that. LG also with a massive win to take that final fight. Vanity, Empire Gaming, Flat rounded out teams that needed it. C9, Temper, Board, Complexity, and NGNL Esports with decent games here. Temper and EMEA Esports, particularly with some fantastic games here to close it out. But Mark, we followed it along. It was DSG. They lost enemies. They lost enemy. They lost design. They ended up losing Qzer, but they lost that rhythm, and it was a tough zone pull for them, wasn't it, to even start this game 6?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough zone for them, sure. They used to play him from edge, so they would have been, I would say, confident still that they could pull something off. But let's be real, like the last 2 match days from DSG isn't the reason that they haven't qualified for the regional finals, we think. It's been the build up to it, right? It's been the weeks before that where they barely put a point on the board. And I mean, there's good signs for them at the end of the season. Unfortunately, it's just too late, it seems like, for them. And if you leave it too late with the amount of talent that's in this region, then that is the situation you find yourself in. I mean, you look at the series results, a huge congratulations to Not Moist on the win, 36 kills as well. TSM just pipped to the post by 1 point, but it's the big points picked up by those teams on the cusp of regional finals that's going to make the difference when it comes down to that final 20.
Bleed Esports stays consistent. They've gotten 5th place, 6th place, 5th place, 6th place, and now another 5th place in their last 5 match days. So talk about consistency. Complexity right behind it. Started off well. Got a win today, but a team like Oblivion and Board, wow, well, they were certainly successful. Oblivion on their side overall in this split, continuing to add to that. Already in 15th place. They'll add to that tally. Board, though, trying to stay in. They were on the cusp, tied for 19th. Did 8th place do enough for them? We know we've got this top 10. Falcons, Furia, TSM, LG, SSG, and congratulations to Bleed Esports, who confirmed their attendance to the Mannheim Split 2 playoffs. We will see you in Germany, but everyone is waiting with bated breath for this next page. Dan, I'll get your reaction first, because this is who determines who will be joining us in our regional finals. If you're not on this page, unfortunately, it'll be LCQ to try to get back. Let's go ahead and roll to it if we can.
This is going to be a big moment, especially for teams that are going to try and push themselves in. And Temper are able to take that 20th position. Fluffy Aimers also push themselves in. Board secure their spot as well. Flat just about hold on, but the cutoff being 45 points, which, if I'm not mistaken, is going to be a tie. And NGNL may be losing out to Temper here on a tiebreaker. And it's going to be heartbreak for the likes of Oxygen, who were on 44 points before this. There's that confirmation. That's how close it is here in North America.
Oh my God, your heart breaks for the situation. Oxygen Esports, NGNL on a tiebreaker, Mark. It's just the closest of margins that are going to decide it. And that's how it goes.
I mean, commiserations, right? It's a big turnaround. I mean, Oxygen Esports, we were talking about at one point as being one of the best teams in North America, right? And all of a sudden they find themselves not just making land, but also not making the regional finals. So some questions have to be asked. Of course, you see like DSG there, they're not going to be making it to the regional finals as well. But something I just wanted to highlight from those final standards as well is if you would have looked at the overalls 2-3 game days ago, you would have thought Not Moist is struggling to get to regional finals. Now they are in one of the automatic qualification spots after what they did today. It is a remarkable turnaround from them. It really is one of the most special game days I think we've seen in some time.
And in many ways, while it's, you know, elation on one side for its Timmy, his former team DSG, it is heartbreak, right? And part of that is, you know, good for Moist to be able to do it, because when Split 1 happened, they dealt with some issues even getting into the tournament and getting their rhythm. So sometimes it goes around and it comes back in ways that you don't ever know how it's going to be, but sticking with it, playing your best, that's what we hope to see these players continue to do, whether you'll be joining us next week as well. Let's look at how Not Moist got there to take this win. It was LG who would actually kind of start things off here in game number 4. I cast this one with you, Dan, and it was interesting to see the way that they were able to position around this one. Cloud9 did a fantastic job too, kind of rotating here. 3 squads left, but ultimately it would just be for wear, because they were not enough to give up the onslaught. Once they found out the Seer Q, LG from on high said, wow, there's only 2 players to push. Yeah, let's just shield swap and make moves here. That'll be easy for us as they take their first of a couple of wins on this match day number 9 here on World's Edge. That's it right there. The little moment that said, yeah, that's enough. A 3v2. Let's just go ahead and